And we out here, yo. Let's get some music for some atmosphere. Feel me? Let's get some music in this joint. Alright, what we gonna play? We gonna play that. Get the music popping it. You know? I've been saying for a long time that there is such a thing as overpaying fighters. And I was goody Avo, was goody Jack, was goody Alfredo. Shout out to my man Martin Munoz. I didn't get to shout you out the last time for the Cash App donation, but I appreciate you. Mario, que lo que, manin? KC Boxing, Gary in the building. Gary all the way from Australia. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, man. You know, I think we all have the same story on our minds, but it does allow us to more or less segue to other aspects of the story that the PBC may be facing hard times. There seem to be widespread rumors that the company itself could be dissolved. Nothing would surprise me at this point, because if you've been paying attention to the metrics, the numbers have been down. They've been down bad, and it's kind of hard to hide it. And I think that most people, content creators and boxing channels, they don't pay as much attention to stuff like that as perhaps we do here on this channel, because it is important. It does have an important role to play in the sport. When the metrics for fights are down, what that essentially means is that the network itself that's showing those fights, they're not getting what they want. So when the next year rolls around and they've got to give that promoter an annual budget, it may not be what it was last year, because last year they gave you X amount of dollars and you didn't deliver them the kind of metrics that they wanted. So the following year, they may not spend as much. And I feel like that's what's been going on with the PBC for a long time, that you got all these guys, they want all this money every time they get out there. And when they get out there, the pay-per-view underperforms, or the ratings really aren't that good. And for a network, you know, it's like I say this stuff all the time. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Everything costs. They're not just giving you money to put on shows. They're giving you money to deliver something. They're giving you a budget so that they get something out of it. And presumably that would be metrics, big TV ratings. And a lot of those programs, a lot of those cards that the PBC puts on, they don't bring in big ratings. So year after year after year, this goes on, and it all eventually comes to a head. There's a lot in the sport of boxing that really does need to change, and that's one aspect of it, that people seem to think that the money just has to miraculously appear or magically appear, and there aren't other aspects of this and other people that are supposed to hold up their end, that are supposed to do their job. Killy, what it do? All right, I'm going to let my man Malachi in here. I'm going to get Malachi in here. If Malachi could join, I got you right now, bro. It's my man Malachi. We're going to chop it up with the Capricornian superpowers. But that's actually a very important element of the sport, believe it or not, because that actually determines how many cards a promotional outfit can afford to put on in a calendar year on a given platform. Yeah, that's important. You know, one of the things that I've always said that makes the PBC unethical, their business practices unethical, is that, you know, you want to do in-house fights, which is normal. That's not unethical. Everybody does that. Every promotional outfit does that. Where it becomes unethical is when you cannot provide the value of a fight that someone else can. Instead of letting the fighter go over there and get that bag, you don't let them. You keep them there, and they end up losing for less money than they could have made somewhere else. And that's why I always say that they're unethical for that. It's not unethical to do in-house fights. Everybody does in-house fights. Like, no, that's common sense. It becomes unethical when you don't let the fighter make money somewhere else that you yourself cannot provide them. That's when it becomes unethical. Reform in the sport of boxing, base. Reform in the sport of boxing and what needs to change. That's what's on my mind tonight. And one thing that I think needs to change is this idea that a fighter can fight for a fixed price, or that, that, oh, well, you're supposed to make X amount of dollars every time you get out there. And no, it doesn't work like that. It actually doesn't work like that. The rate for a fight cannot be fixed, because the interest for a fight cannot be fixed. You know, yeah, people might want a Canelo versus Golovkin, for example, but Canelo can't get for Yildirim what he gets for a Golovkin. You see what I mean? The rate can't be fixed. Like, yeah, he's the cash cow of boxing, yada, 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 yada. And that's a crude example, but it applies to everyone that, oh, you know, you might have got, let's say, $2 million for this guy, but unless this other fight with this other guy is worth the same value as this fight, you cannot expect to get that, because what ends up happening is the network ends up hemorrhaging money, and that's bad for boxing. It's a bad advertisement for boxing. Malachi, what it do? Yes, exactly, Victor. Yesterday's price is not today's price. That's why you say that. That's why that is that way. That we can't pay this all the time just because you think you worth that, and then, you know, when the numbers come back, you're not worth that. That really needs to change. El único cocho que lo quemanin. You know, it's crazy out here, man. Boxing, the way that boxing is run is a business. It's like the Wild Wild West, man. It really is. It's like it's just kind of crazy, the stuff that goes on, and it needs to go back to the way that it was, where for most other fighters, you know, save your Canelo Alvarez, save your Anthony Joshua, those guys, this doesn't apply to them because everyone knows that they can bring the money back, that if you do a show with them, they'll bring you the money back. But all these other fighters, all these other guys that are not big draws, you know, what needs to happen with them is nominal guarantees for minimal risks. That's what needs to happen. That, listen, Brody, if you're not a $2 million fighter, you're not a $2 million fighter. Simple as. We're not going to guarantee you that because you don't bring that. You know what I mean? Maybe we could give you 1.5 and then you can make something off the upside. We could do it that way. But that needs to be across the board. That needs to happen more often, because there's this idea that the rate is supposed to be fixed for a fighter when the interest for a fighter isn't fixed. Shout out to my man George. Random highlight, James Toney, Burger King. Give you one better. Marvelous Marvin Hagler, Domino's. Ow! I got you, bro. I'm about to drop it right now. You know, that's there's a lot of things about it. And, you know, I heard that Fred Hawthorne of Barbershop Conversations, he's privy to intel that suggests that there's a lot of trouble in paradise at the PBC, that they're going broke, nobody wants to pick them up, that Al Heyman is trying to pitch his stable to other platforms and they don't want to invest. And that just accents what I've been saying all along, that, look, you have a stable of guys, most of which are in their early to mid-30s, that have no drawing power but have a lot of entitlement issues, you know? If you're a Keith Thurman, you should have been chomping at the bit to get a Terrence Crawford fight. And the same applies to Danny Garcia. But a lot of those fighters, they're spoiled brats. They don't want to go in there with a guy like that, a killer like that, because they don't actually like their chances. And it says a lot. Honestly, it says a lot. All right, we got Coach Malachi in the building.
Jules, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, I had to get everything set up, man. I tried my phone. My phone was tripping, so I said, I'm in the office now. So what's going on, my brother, man? What's going on, man? Talk to me, man. You've been doing some good work. I've been listening to your stuff, man. And you know, man, sometimes common sense is not so common. You've been fighting this fight for a long time, and I pretty much been piggybacking off of a lot of stuff that I learned and stuff like that. But, bro, like these people here, you know, and I talk about them. You know, us Capricorns, we really don't have patience for BS. A lot of these people really have low IQs, and I said it, but I realized, I'm like, damn, I didn't know it was this bad. It's really, really this bad, bro. Like, you know.
Look, you remember the scene in Superman where he goes up into the atmosphere and he listens into shit, right?
Yeah.
Right? I do that shit all the time. And that's when I knew that 75% of the planet is full of absolute fucking morons. Because a lot of this stuff, it's not even like you have to work all that hard to sort it out. That when you continually do fights that bring in low metrics, year after year, the higher ups, they're going to look at those numbers and they're going to say, why are we spending this amount of money on this? No, we got to cut that budget. We got to trim the fat because we spent A on this last year and all we got was B. So when the next year gets here, we're not going to keep shelling out all this money so you could bring us 230,000 views on a Saturday night. We could fucking put on reruns of some shit and get those kind of metrics. Shelton, what do you think about it?
It's just funny to me, Jules, that grown men in their 30s, 40s, sometimes even 50s, are upset because another grown man made a business decision that was in his best interest.
I agree.
When did that become a problem? Number one. And number two, when was it mandatory that because me and Julius have a business agreement, I need to let Julius in on all my other business agreements that I might have pending?
Moreover, I'm gonna ask you, Shelton. Were you expecting to see Crawford versus Spence this year?
No.
Country, were you expecting to see that fight this year? Be honest.
Hell no. The way they've been going back and forth, I mean, they just keep, baiting us. And it's just like I told you earlier in a comment, I'm at the point now I really don't care about it anymore because they keep stringing it out too much, and you got too many people arguing and acting like little children about it.
But bottom line, you weren't expecting to see that fight this year. Bottom line, right?
No, I was not at all. I was figuring it was going to be in 2023 if it's going to happen at all.
Coach, were you expecting that fight to materialize this year?
Not only was I not expecting it to happen, me and Shelton was talking about this last year. I have a receipt that I dropped December the 16th, 2021, saying that this fight wouldn't happen at all, and Terrence Crawford needed to stop chasing Errol Spence and move on. I had the receipt where I said it, and I broke down exactly what was going to happen. And
I know you have the power, Coach. I've always known. I know you have the powers. Not everybody has the powers. For those that don't know, Coach has the powers. Talk to him.
I mean, yeah, man. I mean, it is what it is. But this is the thing that gets me. Tim Smith said what he said January the 7th about this fight not happening because of economics.
Mm-hmm.
Floyd Mayweather reiterated it on July, say stop believing other people. If you don't hear from me, yada, yada, yada. But on October the 7th, which was 2 weeks ago, Floyd Mayweather specifically said, the guy who we won't know who PBC is if it wasn't for Floyd Mayweather. We won't know who Al Heyman is if it wasn't for Floyd Mayweather, because since 2007 and up, when Floyd was boxing, the last 15 fights of his career, he talked about, first of all, I want to thank Al Heyman. So people know who Al Heyman is because of Floyd Mayweather. A lot of these guys love Floyd online. They love him, following him, whatever the case may be. Floyd Mayweather specifically said, like I said before, Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence, that fight is not happening right now. Stop right there. If Floyd Mayweather said October the 7th that this fight is not happening right now, maybe this fight will happen, and he didn't say it will happen. He said maybe this fight will happen later on down the line. This is what he said. So if you're Terrence Crawford and you trying to negotiate a fight with Al Heyman, and Floyd Mayweather, who is a business partner of Al Heyman, PBC, he said it, they're like one big happy family, and he tells you, hey, listen, stop listening to Mike Carpenter, stop listening to all these other people, this fight is not happening. And you're Terrence Crawford, and you know this because this is what Floyd is saying. Okay, they say this fight ain't happening right now, so I have a contingency plan. Floyd Mayweather specifically said this fight is not happening. Everybody's mad at Crawford while ignoring the fact of what Floyd Mayweather said.
Exactly.
He told you. And so I don't get it. Go ahead.
And it's like, one, that Floyd said this. I know that Floyd said this. Country, Shelton, everybody knows. But moreover, common sense. Look at where we are. We're close to the end of October. Do you get the sense that you could do a show in November or December? No, you don't have enough time to promote it. So why would anyone be mad that Crawford is tuning up with a guy when the Spence fight wasn't going to happen anyway, you dumb motherfucker? You don't understand that shit wasn't going to happen.
This is the thing, Jules. This is the thing that a lot of people missing. they already knew that Crawford was going to have a fight at the end of the year, and Errol Spence had something set up for, because remember in that article he also said that, hey, when the revised edition of the contract came back, revised edition of the terms or whatever that they was working on, they said that in that article that Mike Carpenter put out, he said that the revised edition said that PBC was looking to make that fight next year around February or March.
Exactly.
That's what they said. So,
I mean, it's like, you know what this shit is? I'm gonna be real with you, Coach. At this point, because I know that it's a polarizing subject where it should not be, but it is, and it's just that the Spence fans, they don't really want to be wrong about this. You feel me? Like, they're too invested. 4 years of going back and forth with Crawford fans. You feel me? 4 years of that, and at this point, if it feels like all the common sense and critical thinking has been removed from the conversation, it's just because you don't want to be wrong. Like, we've been telling you that Bob Arum is not the problem. Top Rank and ESPN is not the problem. Sides of the Street are not the problem, because they made a fucking fight with Fury, and he was over there at Top Rank. So all this shit that you've been running with, that was never the problem. The real problem is that Errol is not the draw, and I've been saying that. That man is not the draw that you think he is. You just want to believe that shit, because I don't know, but I've been saying that dude is not no motherfucking box office draw, fam. He ain't. Go ahead, Show.
Like me and Coach said, what was it, Coach? Maybe 14 months ago?
Yeah.
Errol Spence is not the fighter they think he is either.
Oh, I agree with that. No, I agree with that.
Yeah, the aerosexuals are upset right now. They mad. They 30 hot. It is what it is. Tomorrow, I'm gonna enjoy dissing them tomorrow. Yeah, I love doing it. I love
that shit.
Yeah, these aerosexuals, they so mad right now, boy. As you say, they lack critical thinking skills. They suffer from confirmation bias. Anything that doesn't confirm what they already been programmed to believe or want to believe, they automatically reject it. Critical thinking skills is something that most human beings should have. But boy, like you said, when you emotionally invested and you all in, and you have two things going on, they love the big fish, Mr. Chocolate covered eating strawberries. they love that dude that like that yellow meat kissing on yellow beezy. They love that guy so much. That's one emotion, but they hate that. They hate that brother from Omaha, Nebraska. So they got a hate relationship with Bud. That's a powerful emotion, and they have an infatuation for Crawford and anything PBC.
Hey, so you know what's really hypocritical about that, Coach, is that what trips me out is they will go off on people about hating on black fighters, right? And go into all this stuff and make accusations and this and that, but then they'll turn around and hate on Bud, who's like, a black fighter.
Well, let me tell you what that is. Honest to God, and I stay away from it personally. I do stay away from it, but that's because those individuals feel that they can do that where someone else can't. That's what that is. I don't get into that because I don't give a shit. I only care about the boxing aspect of it.
No, but I've encountered the argument before.
Bro, listen, I've been called all type of shit, which is honest to me. Honest to God, it's bizarre. I've been called all type of shit. But
I agree.
But I don't care about that shit. Like, I don't even.
Jules, this is the thing, though. This is why they hate me so much. And I'm going to just call it. Y'all ain't got to say anything. I'm going to say nothing disrespectful. By me being black, and I come from I was in the nation for 25 years, and I come from that conscious community era, that I came in the game and pointed out the hypocrisy and the double standards.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are not down for black fighters. You're down to push a narrative. You deride, you fanboys, you fanboy YouTube channels. So I come in the game. I was supposed to be the one to be on code and not talk about all of this stuff, right? I come out banging. You know what I mean? Letting them know, look, you guys are not none of that. Now, some of these same guys, they're changing their tune now.
Mm-hmm. You've noticed. Oh, so you've noticed that now all of a sudden, motherfuckers is turning coats on Al.
Yeah, they're changing their tune now, and I'm like, oh, okay. So it's like, they ain't got to give, and I'm gonna say this, Jules, they ain't got to give me my credit. But I'm like, yeah, I've been banging on you guys for a little bit now, and now they're starting to see now You see, when you do skin color politics, it doesn't work. You guys, and I tell these guys have double standards, the hypocrisies. Stop, and it's fake outrage that you come with. You talk all this stuff about you love black fighters, but you attack more black fighters than anyone online.
Exactly.
You have become everything that you said you was against. I've been talking about this from day one since I started this channel. You know what I mean? And I'm going to continue to talk about it until I destroy these guys. But I'm going to keep my mouth closed. I digress.
And I'm going to say this, that the only one who has a bias, and it's going to sound strange, maybe I should let Coach say it, but the only one who has a bias against black fighters, you know who it is? Al Heyman. It's not Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn gave Demetrius Andre the multi-million-dollar deal. He gave Devin Haney multi-million-dollar deal. But when Devin wanted to fight a PBC fight, I'm sorry, we ain't got that money for you, bro. We don't have that. When it's Terrence Crawford, there's no guarantee. You got money for Munguia, you got money for Canelo, but you have no money for the black fighter. One of the most accomplished American fighters in the entire sport of boxing right now. I can't stress that enough. If it were easy to be a 3-division champion, Errol would have did it. But he didn't, did he, right? No, he didn't do it. If it were easy to win a Ring Magazine title, he would have had one by now. He won his first Alphabet title in 2017. That was 5 years ago. You ain't get a ring belt yet. You ain't lineal yet. You ain't none of that. Terrence Crawford could legitimately retire today, and it might be enough to get in the hall just because he's a 2-time Ring Magazine, 2-time lineal, former undisputed, current 3-division champion who's undefeated. That might be enough to get him in. But what did you do, bro? What, because you
first ballot. First ballot, Jules. Right now.
Like that's crazy that like, yo, you can have and I say it all the time. If Terrence Crawford had that same resume, but he was from the UK, they built him a church. They built him a church, bro. Look at how happy the whole of Wales got when Joe Cordina won the IBF. Imagine if they had a 3-division, 2-time undisputed, 2-time Ring Magazine. You crazy? They built him a church. But these bozos, they tore him down to the point to where the fight lost value.
Can I say something, Julius?
Go ahead.
I have to say, Terrence Crawford proved me wrong. I told you before, for me, it was this. This is Terrence Crawford's chance to prove that he is what he says, what we believe he is. His chance to become 2-time undisputed. And I honestly believe that at the moment he was to sit with Errol Spence and Hal Heyman, Crawford was going to play hardball with them. Because those versus $6 million for Sean Porter, it was doing good money. So I thought, this guy is not going to take a low offer deal. And I am a naive guy. I really thought the low ball offer is going to be something like, okay, Terrence, we have 1.5 million and 20% of the pay-per-view.
I thought that too, Leo.
I really thought. And when they came with that bullshit offer, no guarantee, and net worth revenue, and Terrence Crawford won. The fact that he was even entertaining that offer proved me in that moment. No, you really want that fight. You really want that.
Think about it, Leo. He burnt the bridge with Top Rank because of that fight. Remember, a part of the lawsuit is that, oh, well, you didn't get me the Spence fight. He burnt that bridge trying to get that fight. That's crazy. And people still lack the critical thinking skills to see, like, yo, dog, this dude has done everything he could. There's not a lot else that he can do. You want it. It's like, and the funny thing is, the reports are what the reports are. It doesn't say that Terrence rejected the deal. No report says that. Nobody says that.
I had a guy leave a comment on one of your videos that was trying to tell me that Crawford pulled out of the fight in February. I'm like, get out of here! You're like, no,
like,
no.
Look, it's to the point. It's to the point to where they can't argue. No, like that's because that's where we are. The reports are what the reports are. It wasn't Terrence pushing the fight to next year. That was the PBC that did that. So if the fight isn't happening next year, which all of us knew, what's wrong with him fighting David Avanesyan? Who cares what Black Prime is? Who cares if the pay-per-view flops? The real crux of it is that they weren't going to fight this year anyway. So it's kind of like you're mad at him for not being inactive. That's what I'm kind of getting from it, that you were hoping that he would be inactive going into this fight. And when you see that he's fighting someone else, you try to turn it into something else. When it's not Avanesyan instead of Errol in 2022. He wasn't going to fight Errol in 2022. What part of that are you not understanding? That shit wasn't going to happen.
Jules, again, you hit the nail right on the head. Tim Smith, who works for the PBC, told you that the fight is not happening. Floyd Mayweather, who built the PBC pretty much off his sweat equity, I'm just going to throw that out there. He said, when you see me, when you're talking to Al, it's like talking to me, because we're partners. I know everything that's going on with the PBC. So who am I going to believe? Am I going to believe some avatars on YouTube? Am I going to believe some aerosexual pro PBC YouTube channels, or I'm going to believe two people who work for the PBC and told to Al Heyman every day? Make it make sense, Jules.
Look, man, I'm gonna say that maybe I should be more like Michael Benson or Mike Kopinger, because the news that came out, and shout out to Lo, I see you, Lo. Maybe I should be more like them and start releasing the intel as I get it, because I knew the deal was bad weeks ago, man. Literally, I got sent screenshot weeks ago, and I'm like, I'm gonna just sit on it. I'm gonna be optimistic. I'm gonna sit on it. I'm not gonna say anything. But I knew weeks ago that Al was trying to walk him into a bad deal. I just didn't know how bad it was. They're like, fam, y'all not even gonna guarantee him no money? What kind of deal is this, bro? What
presentable.
It's insane. They're trying to walk him into the deal that Sergey Kovalev got in the second war, and like, you think this is a good deal? What, you would accept this? Like what planet are we on? And I think it's reached a point to where underneath it all, they know how it looks. They understand what's going on, and they're being prideful about this. Like, you don't want to be wrong, but you know that you are. Like, they weren't going to fight this year. You know that. Floyd said it. And before that, Tim Smith said it, that like, bro, we don't want to make him a guarantee. That's disrespectful, but the economics is not there. He said that all of this is in plain English.
So wait a minute, Jules. Hold on, wait. So Tim Smith said in February that they didn't want to make him a deal that was disrespectful, correct?
Mm-hmm.
But you offer a man, per the reports, now I wasn't in the room, I'm just going by the reports that's out there. You offer a man 35% of I don't know what the fuck it is.
Hey, Jules, Lo has a question for you. She says, do y'all think Ring Magazine no longer selling print issues, it's going to eventually go under and no more Ring belt?
I believe that what can save Ring is if they become more of a news outlet. If they go the boxing scene route and you rely on clicks and get advertisers for your website, that will keep them afloat. But as far as print media has been dying for the last 20 years. That's not exclusive to Ring Magazine. That's also newspapers and magazines. Everything is digital now. You know, print media as a whole has been dying for decades now. So what Ring Magazine has to do to stay relevant in the sport is get out there, network, and break news and break stories, which is not hard to do because they already have the relationships and the connections to get insights on fights and fighters. It can't be a monthly issue anymore. It shouldn't be monthly. It needs to be a website that is updated daily and relies on advertising revenue to keep them afloat and keep them paid. However, to answer her question, if they don't do this, the Ring Magazine belt goes. It goes. Like, it'll, because it's their belt. If they're not around to betroth that belt, to crown a Ring Magazine champion, yeah, it's gone. But there's ways. Look, Dougie Fisher, all those people over there, they're smart people over there. They have to have known for a long time now, based on the metrics, if you're watching them, that print media is dying. People don't read newspapers anymore. You know, it's not that they don't read the news anymore. It's that they don't read newspapers anymore. Boxing Scene is one of the most popular periodicals in the whole of the sport of boxing, but it's a digital news outlet, not print. So they just got to get with the times. That's one of my favorite sayings, adapt or die. That's the way it actually is. Adapt or die. You cassette tapes, and then first it was what do they call them shits, man? Records. It was records, then it was 8-tracks, then it was cassette tapes, and then it was CDs, and from CDs to MP3s. It's just the way things are. You have to adapt, or you end up under the tide. That's how it is. Now let me read the super chat. A video game in this picture on the screen is the closest we're gonna get to this fight. I agree. Hot Boxing, shout out to Hot Boxing. He says, for that Black Prime pay-per-view fund, let me know how you're giving them your credit card info. Works out for you, my dude. Oh, I have a Green Dot card, bro. I have a Green Dot card.
Yeah.
The purchases I make online at any site, Fight TV, even Amazon, I funnel money into the Green Dot card, and I don't use my actual bank account, like my actual debit card. Like I don't actually use that. I just, whatever I'm going to spend, I put it in the Green Dot, and then I use that. So, that's the only thing that'll be in there. That's how I do it. So, and I advise anybody to do it that way, but I get what he's saying, that website, you really can't trust it. Are you really going to give them your debit card information? And obviously, the fact that we're talking about the common sense that most people don't have, I'd wager they don't have the common sense to do that. Like, get yourself a Green Dot card and use that for your online purchases to protect your debit card and your bank account. You don't want to have to use that at every website,
because it might get stolen.
Exactly.
I did some research on BLK Prime, and I found out that they're owned by a Silicon Valley CFE investment group. Now, the investment group in Silicon Valley that owns BLK Prime is worth $2.8 trillion.
Wow.
So the money is not an issue. The money they're going to put up for this fight for these people is a tax write-off.
Wow.
Because BLK Prime itself is only worth $5 million. So they don't have the money. They had to go to their parent company to get the money.
Wow.
And the parent company is the company that's trying to make a splash. Decided, hey, this might be a good investment. Because you gotta remember something. If you're trying to make a splash into the boxing world,
you have to disrupt the market.
Right. And what better fighter to do that with than the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world?
Terrence Crawford. You know that's what Triller tried to do with Teofimo Lopez after the Lomachenko win. They made it a point, scoop him up. We'll use him as the launch pad for our platform. Now, granted, it didn't work out, and I knew it wouldn't work out because I read about Ryan Kavanaugh, and I'm like, bro, this dude is a scam artist. But it's still, we understand that, and the reason that I didn't pay much mind to the platform that's doing his pay-per-view, I didn't pay that much mind because, listen, it's not important. It really isn't. If they're telling this man on paper in a contract that will give you anywhere between $5 to $10 million, as opposed to the absolute nothing I'm getting for this Errol Spence Jr. fight, why wouldn't I take it? I wasn't going to get to fight Spence this year anyway. I wasn't going, and that's the part that's going over everyone's heads. Fam, that fight wasn't going to happen this year. It wasn't going to happen. So him fighting Avanesyan is a non-issue. It's not Avanesyan instead of Spence. There wasn't going to be no Spence fight this year. What is so hard about that to understand?
Coach says it all the time, brother. It's confirmation bias.
Yeah.
If what you're telling me doesn't jive with what I've been coerced and force-fed to believe, then I don't even want to hear it. I don't want to entertain it. It can't be true because that's not what the general said.
Exactly.
Jules, and that's exactly what it is, fam, because, again, I call these guys out for the hypocrisy. You talk all this pro-black revolution, we banging against the man, but you attack more but the black fan base on YouTube attack more black fighters than anybody. So because I'm black, I can say it and call it the way it is. And I say it so eloquently and boldly, sarcastically, and sometimes just get rude with it. Sometimes I call them out on their hypocrisy, their double standards and quadruple standards. That's what it is. They're showing their colors. You guys hate your own kind. You hate other black fighters that don't fit your narrative. And when I blow it up, that's just exactly what it is. They just call it for what it is. I'm gonna continue to call it that way. They so all in on hating Terrence Crawford that no matter what they see, you can show forensic evidence, fingerprints, DNA samples, cameras. You can have 20 people, eyewitnesses, all of that stuff. They will ignore all of that because it doesn't confirm what they already want to believe. That's what it is.
That's what it is. And who was attacking Shakur Stevenson just for giving Bam Rodriguez a compliment, calling him that literally, this is how it played out. Bam, he said, "Oh, Bam is nice." That's all he said. They turned that into, "Oh, he tap dancing and shucking and jiving for the match." I'm like, fam, all he did was pay a fellow boxer a compliment. Are you insane? He didn't even say, like, it wasn't some long ass paragraph that he wrote. He said, "Yo, that kid could box." That's all he said. Because of that, he got to be all kinds of names and things like that. Terrence, who's one of the best fighters America's produced in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Y'all been attacking that man for 4 years.
And for what?
And for what? For what? For a dude that is not even as proven as he is. And it's like the brainwashing is almost scary how effective. Like, y'all really going to turn on this dude? Y'all should be asking for a fight. It shouldn't be, "Oh, Errol." You should be asking for the fight. If you like Errol that much, shouldn't you want to see him get out there and fight Terrence?
But they love black fighters, though. They love all black fighters. Remember that. Don't forget it.
Even Charlo, I remember Charlo called out I think it was Blue Blood or somebody. I can't remember if it was Mel or Maul, but I remember that video that he was like, "Yo, that motherfucker just be lying about." I'm like, motherfuckers, like, I wish there was more of that, more fighters calling him out, because it's like, yo, dog, like, you create a real toxic environment for boxing. You create issues where there are no issues. There is no issue, fam. The issue is that y'all lied about Errol Spence marquee value, and now y'all feel stupid. That's all it is. You are the buffoons that said he was going to eclipse Canelo Alvarez. Has that happened yet?
Nope.
Has that happened yet? They said that 2 years ago in the pandemic based on the Yildirim fight. Fast forward 2 fights. Canelo breaks a record in Texas for indoor attendance. Did Errol break a record for indoor attendance in Texas? No. So what the fuck are you talking about? What's the matter with you? Let me read the super chat. If Spence is a Hall of Famer, is Spence a Hall of Famer if he retires today? I say no. All he is I don't think division. All he is a unified champion. For a perspective, is Artur Beterbiev a Hall of Famer? No. Is Murtajan Akhmadaliev a Hall of Famer? No. Is Stephen Fulton a Hall of Famer? No. So what did Errol do specifically, aside from unify 3 belts? What did he do that gets him in the hall?
He went to England and beat Kell Brook.
Motherfucking Terrence Crawford went to Glasgow and beat Ricky Burns. You see what I mean? That Hall of Fame, I know it's not an exact science, because for God's sake, Arturo Gatti is in the Hall of Fame, and we know that he was never thought of as a pound-for-pound fighter, but he did have a legendary trilogy. He had a legendary trilogy with Mickey Ward that is immortalized. So does Errol have something like that?
Well, now let's look at it. Now we gotta be unbiased, as they say.
All right.
He did beat 2 walking, talking Hall of Famers in Sean Porter and Danny Garcia. That's what they say. Now you laughing, but you've heard that just as much as I have. Now, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. I heard Danny's a Hall of Fame, and I'm like, yo, people will say anything now. I think that's a byproduct of just the internet as a whole, that sometimes when too many guys get a platform, it's like, fam, no, there's nothing Hall of Fame about Danny Garcia or Keith Thurman, who beat him and gave him his first loss. Those are not Hall of Fame careers. Though Keith Thurman is no more a Hall of Famer than Alexander Vosdick. Nobody thinks Vosdick is a Hall of Famer, right? Right. No, of course not. Well, what did Keith Thurman do to get in the Hall? Get beat by Manny Pacquiao? What did he do? What did Danny do?
Nothing.
What, he beat Amir Khan? Bradis Prescott beat Amir Khan. Is he a Hall of Famer? He did it first. He did it better. He knocked him out in the first round. Is he a Hall of Famer? No, right?
I'll give you one. I want someone on this panel to tell me and be honest that Danny Garcia and Sean Porter are or were better fighters than Simon Brown.
Of course not. Of course not. Listen, Danny Garcia, and I really do like Sean Porter. I really, because I feel like he's a throwback fighter, but he was never of that pound for pound ilk. But I'll say that as welters, they ain't of the ilk of Mark Breland. Nah. Y'all ain't even, nah.
Marlon Sterling destroys all of them. Marlon Sterling beats them all.
That's what I'm like what do we and I don't say that to knock them, but if we put that classification of Hall of Fame, okay, here's a Hall of Fame fighter, Andre Ward, unbeaten, 2-division, 2-time unified champion, lineal in 1 division. I don't think he was lineal. Was he lineal at like? No, he wasn't, because Adonis had it, and he was a Hall of Famer though. But you see what kind of career he had? The Super 6 at 168, and then he goes up and beats the Boogity Man at light heavyweight. Fam, what Boogity Man did Danny Garcia beat? Well, what Boogity Man? I love Sean. I'm always gonna love Sean. But
they go back to Lucas Matisse.
Oh, give me a come on. Basically, that's saying that
I'm just telling you what they say. I'm
saying because he beat one solid dude. One. He's a Hall of Famer. Like you think. Listen, and they don't know. They don't know who puts the ballots in. They don't know who the voters are.
Hey, Jules, he's right up there with Wilder for Hall of Fame, man.
Well, listen, and I'm not joking. I'm being serious. Wilder has a claim. It's not a strong claim, no. It's not a strong claim, but he does have a claim because of the number of title defenses. I don't know if that's going to be enough. Being real with you, I don't know. He do seem to get love from the media. He might get love from the people that put the ballots in. He might. But because of them 10 title defenses, they might fuck with him. They might. You know what I mean? And
don't forget, you're forgetting one. He did beat a 97-year-old Eric Morales twice.
That is true. He was 97. He was 97 if he wasn't 98. Edwin Castillo says, Saludo, Coach. Julius Bud didn't like the fact that he was getting off of PBC bucks. That wasn't going to be valid at Six Flags or for playing Monopoly. He was offered Heyman bucks. Heyman bucks with Heyman face on it. Aaron Baker says, I think that Black Prime will be Crawford's new home. Silicon Valley investment companies have deep pockets. Crawford can keep getting these guarantees. And that thanks for saying that, Aaron, because that allows me to segue into the next topic I wanted to cover. Imagine a world next year where, they don't fight, right? Let's say Errol, he goes up to junior middle, right? What happens next for Terrence Crawford? Who does he fight?
He retires.
You think that's what I mean. Shelton, what do you think would happen if that fight doesn't materialize? You believe that Crawford would retire?
Yeah, but Crawford is 35. So he's at the end or coming to the end of his prime, right? Mm-hmm. So the only viable option if he doesn't get the Spence fight for me is A, give Boots a shot. B, go up to 54, invoke your super status, and fight Charlo. Or C, retire. Either way, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer no matter what. Because I still think he beats Boots. I still think he beats Charlo. But if he doesn't get those 2 fights, if you look at his career in totality, he has nothing left to prove.
I agree with that. So,
might as well hang it up.
Coach, do you agree with that contention that if Terrence can't get Errol in the ring at all, Errol goes up to junior middle and the fight is dead, essentially? Do you believe that Terrence would retire?
I don't know. It just depends on, it's kind of hard to predict these fighters because it just depends on what their financial situation is. I think Crawford is pretty well. He doesn't deliver extravagant lifestyle. You don't see him doing the stuff that a lot of those fighters on the other side of the fence, PBC fighters do. He lives a very simple life, very simple, very similar to Deontay Wilder. That's what I like about Wilder. He does live his life very simple. He said if he stayed, he said he would, give Virgil Ortiz a shot because Virgil would be his mandatory once that time comes. He has 18 months up until April or May of next year to when Ortiz will be able to activate that mandatory and fight him, or he'll move up. I don't see him if he move up to 154. I don't see him fighting Jamel Charlo because he's going to go through the same thing because Jamel Charlo is a PBC fighter. So,
I do agree with that. And he doesn't have Bob Arum in his corner. Bob has always had the WBO. He's always had a way with them. Right. But Bud's not with Bob anymore. So he doesn't have that ace in the hole that, you could go to Bob and be like, Bob, can you put the squeeze on them to order this fight so I could at least have some leverage in a situation? He don't have that relationship.
But if he invokes his super status, right, he could push for the fight. Then the fight could go to purse bid. Am I right?
Yeah, in theory it could.
If Charlo doesn't fight him, he'll be stripped. Correct?
Correct.
But then, Jules, what do you think about? I was just watching the video with Boza Ennis, which is Boots Ennis' father. He said that, man, now that we see that this Crawford Spence fight ain't happening, he said they just filed their paperwork to become Errol Spence's mandatory for the IBF. So
I did a video about that this morning, bro.
I got to look at it. I saw it. I got to save to look at. Always.
You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing
that's happening now. And I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm just saying that this is why I'm at a loss for words. I said all this already. I said this months ago. You don't have to believe me. Go back to the videos. Any video where Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford on the thumbnail. Particularly, I did a video where Errol is kind of like he getting squeezed and it says the walls are closing in. If you watch that video, I literally said all this, that if you don't make it happen with Bud, a Montes Stanionis is not a PBC fighter. He's a pro bellum fighter. He's not a PBC guy. I don't even know that Al has his thumb on that guy. And if you don't fight Bud, he's going to come for you. If you don't fight Bud, Ennis is going to come for you because he's not a PBC fighter either. I don't think Al has his thumb on him either. You haven't satisfied a mandatory for the IBF in 4 years, bro. All right? You can only hold them back for so long before they start being like, look, we ain't getting no money at welterweight because of fucking Errol. He won't fight shit. Something got to give. And if you ain't fighting Bud, either you going to fight them or you going to give them belts. It's one or the other. The only chance you had to skip them was to fight Bud. If you don't fight Bud, well, you can't skip them. There's still a chance that Al wises up and Spence wises up and says, look, we got to do this fight. Why we got to do this fight? Because it's not a good look if we vacate and go to 54. We go to 54. The other problem with sending Errol to 54 is he won't get the fight right away. He won't get the fight until Jermell leaves. Jermell's not leaving yet. He's fighting Tim Tszyu early next year. So what are we looking at for a return for Errol? What, later on in the year? What, the fall? The winter? You know how they get down. Motherfucker fight once a year, and that's going to be the only time in the year you see him. None of this is conducive towards growing his profile or growing his celebrity. So it's like going to 54 is an option, but it's really not a great option because there's no money fights up there for Errol. Think about it. Who up there? Murtazaliev, Castaño, Fundoria. Those is not money fights. None of them. The smartest play, and I believe this, the smartest play that Al Heyman can make, I said this 2 lives ago, Errol's season is over. Invest in Crawford now. Why? If Crawford beats Spence, you get 2 pay-per-views out of it. Which 2? Crawford versus Spence and Crawford versus Charlo. All right? But if Errol, you keep prioritizing Errol, well, Charlo don't even come into the goddamn shit because he ain't going to fight him. Crawford will. You get 2 box office fights out of that if you invest in Crawford. Errol, it's over for him. You need to understand that. It is over for him. There's nothing else you can do. The Pacquiao fight, it didn't work out, okay? Canelo don't get... Remember, most people aren't realizing Al Heyman offered Canelo Spence. A part of that $100 million deal was a Spence fight. You was willing to cash him out. So cash him out to Crawford and get yourself 2 box office fights instead of 1. Do it, because his season is over. It's over.
Yeah, but Julius, the thing about that, do you think Crawford is going to sign any long-term commitment with Al Heyman, knowing how Al Heyman does business?
No. He cannot offer him the deal that his other fighters have, but he can offer him the deal that he offered Canelo. And I'm pretty sure that they didn't play around with the legalese with Canelo because, bitch, you know better. You know better. Don't try it, bro. Don't even fucking try it. You offer him a 2-fight deal. 2-fight deal. If he beats Spence, you stay with us and you do this Charlo fight. We know that you want to be a 3-time undisputed champion. We'll help you get there. Give us 2 box office fights.
Yeah,
because I believe, listen.
Okay.
Because I believe that Terrence would knock out Errol, that makes the Charlo fight box office. Because I firmly believe he'd knock him out. He would knock him out. All right. So if it happens that way, that Charlo fight, that's a spicy motherfucker. It's a spicy fight. 2-time undisputed champion Terrence Crawford versus the authority at junior middleweight. You can sell it. Charlo surprised me with them numbers. Close to 1 million people wanted to see him fight Castaño. Close to 1 million. That tells me the audience is out there. They are out there. Those are encouraging metrics. And if you're talking about a world where Crawford knocked out Spence, okay, that's your launch pad. Your next big fight is Jermell Charlo. And you can sell it.
Yeah, but we're talking about Al Heyman that is reasonable. I think the only reason why Canelo got that deal and Al Heyman didn't struggle to put him on his wing is because Canelo does great numbers and brings a lot of money.
That's true.
And Crawford doesn't.
That's true. But you see, if you go by the story, right? Remember what the story is. This guy accepted no money down. Think about that. No guarantee. So that means almost anything would be better than what you offered him. So what if you offer him 5? 3 to 5. Somewhere in between 3 million and 5 million plus an upside of the pay-per-view. Now you're cooking with rice. If this man was willing to accept no money down, no guarantee, 3 million to 5 million up front, that's more than Sean Porter got the unified titles with Errol. That's more than Errol got. All right? The other thing is, I do agree. Terrence has to be realistic also. I'm not saying that he gets to just whatever you want, but it does feel like he's being realistic because he accepted that on the premise that he can look at the books and approve certain expenses. It looks to me like y'all told him no. That's what it looks to me, because you moving money around to hide it from the fighters. I know what you're doing, bro. I know.
Dude, in retrospect, if we're talking about how it is, in retrospective, this looks like a dog game. You're trying to lowball him so hard that he didn't entertain that offer.
Mm-hmm.
And Crawford was trying to get that fight done.
Russ Pettit says it's gone the way of Bo versus Lewis. I think he's right.
I agree, too. It wouldn't surprise me if they never fight. Drew says Andre Eurobum Ward. Now, be nice. Usyk is a Hall of Famer. I do agree with that. He's a two-division champion, former undisputed, Ring Magazine and Lineal, and he's currently unified and Ring Magazine at heavyweight. So I do believe he gets in the Hall just with that. Ivo says Bud was paid in IOU dollars. What a joke. You know what I'm saying? If he was willing to accept a deal where he gets no money down and no money up front, of course he'd be willing to accept that same deal with $3 million up front. You don't have to break the bank. He just accepted a deal with no money down. So
Right.
offer him $3 million. Ray says if Crawford moves up and invokes his status, Charlo will drop the belt before he fights him, and he'll have the same talking points as Tank, that belts don't matter. You know what's the funny thing? In that scenario, he's right back at square one. He ends up with the WBO title, right? Because that would be the super status, and he still gets frozen out. Still gets frozen out. Al Heyman needs to wise up. That's what needs to happen. Errol's season is over. He needs to understand that. His season is over. Whatever you were going to do with that fighter, you did it already. It's not going to get better now. There are no more marquee fights for him. There are none. Short of Canelo Alvarez saying, bring him. And you know what I'm saying? There's no more fights, bro. Nothing.
I think if we are talking about this, about Errol Spence, Terence Crawford, and how much time they have left, I think it's for the PVC, it has more sense to put all their chips on Ennis. Try to make Ennis to fight Errol Spence and Terence Crawford.
I've said that for a long time, but it seems like what he's done is build a wall around Ennis, because by all rights, Ennis should have gotten Keith Thurman. He should have gotten, if Al cared about Jaron Ennis's career, you see what I mean? If he cared, he would have got him, or at least Danny, you know, because he needs that crossover fight. Be that fighter that knocks out Keith Thurman or Danny Garcia. None of that has happened, bro. They're running from him.
Yeah, but you notice the only fighter out of all of them that's even mentioned Ennis's name has been Bud.
Yep.
Said that he'd be a problem, but he'd like to fight him.
All right, let's say this, bro. I don't disagree with that, by the way. I don't disagree with what I don't know what that shit says. That's a Mexican guy. He used to be a friend of mine. It is true, because Virgil Ortiz is from Grand Prairie, Texas, and obviously Errol's from Texas as well. You could do very good numbers with that fight. You actually could. The problem is the platform issues, bro. Virgil's with Golden Boy, fights on the Zone. Errol's with Showtime or whatever, PBC. So it's like it has the same problems that damn near every fight has. It's not that it wouldn't do numbers. No, I actually do think it'll do numbers. Like, I think Virgil Ortiz versus Errol Spence does the same or better numbers than the Mikey Garcia fight. I do believe that. I think you can get people into the stadium to watch that fight, at least the same number. And I think you could do okay at the box office. That's a real fight, though. That's a real fight. I don't feel like Errol's looking for real fights, bro. Come on now. That'd be nice. I wouldn't mind that, to be honest. But who's waiting on Golden Boy to send one of the only good fighters they have to Showtime? Who's waiting on that?
Yeah, they ain't willing to do that.
One of the only good fighters they have. They're going to send him to Showtime to be content for Stefan Espinoza when they have so little to offer the Zone?
You know what's wild, though, is they're not willing to feed Spence to Crawford or whatever. You know, some people agree, some don't. That's fine. But they're willing to put him in there with Canelo. If Canelo would have came down and said, "Yeah, I'll fight him," they would have put that up real quick. Yeah, because they knew Canelo would have brought the money, and they would have had the same angle that they used with Mikey. That Errol, he was daring to be great, daring to go to the hospital, daring to end up in the infirmary. Daring to be in the intensive care unit.
I'm gonna ask a question, Julian.
Go ahead.
Do you believe? Because I believe this. I believe that Heyman is so used to dictating to fighters that he can't stand the fact that Crawford is in the position to dictate to him.
I believe that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I believe that. He's used to having his thumb on those guys. And Drew says it all the time, that a part of Drew believes that Heyman doesn't want the fight at all. He said this more than once, that you can't deal with Crawford the way you deal with your other fighters, so you don't actually want to deal with Crawford, because he's never going to go for what those guys go for. It's never going to work. You know, he's accustomed to dealing with the way Top Rank does things, and Top Rank don't do that extra shit. All that extra shit, like, no, bro, that man was getting paid over there, bro. He's getting paid. For guys like Mean Machine and Brook, a past it Brook, a past it Khan, he got millions for those fights. He's used to that. You can't do him the way you do fucking Adrian Broner. Have him complaining on Instagram, where's my money? Where's my... That shit ain't gonna work.
Drew and Robert backstage, and Spicy's in the house. What's up, Spicy?
As Spicy. I'm saying, let me shoot as Spicy the link too. As Spicy, click the link, yo.
I want to say this, Julius, about what Coach was saying some time before. Look, when I go to Ring IQ Boxing Talk, I go for the news mostly, and I hear your takes, your thoughts, your ideas. But those are your ideas, your thoughts. I mostly go there for the news. These other channels, all the guys goes for the ideas.
Yeah.
They don't think for themselves. I really don't think. They don't have no idea what is the subject, so they take the ideas of these guys, their leaders,
and run with them,
without a second thought.
Yeah, like the whole, at least the layout, and Coach has the same layout. The best channels do. First you get the story, the actual story. Then we play around with ideas, what it could lead to, what it could be, what we think about a fight. But first and foremost, you get the actual story, because that's the important part. That's the basis for the conversation. Whereas on a lot of other channels, the basis is imagination. Oh, Javonte ain't got to fight nobody. He beat everybody at lightweight already in our imagination. He don't got to fight nobody. He don't got to fight shit. He's already number one in our imagination.
Because the speed and the power and the footwork.
You know what I'm saying? Click the link at Spicy.
But see, Jules, you know what? Again, it's like I say, these guys don't have a boxing criteria. So when you're dealing with a channel that don't have a boxing criteria, their criteria is, okay, well, you know, my fighter beat a hog head cheese sandwich or a Cuban sandwich, so he don't have to fight him because we automatically know he'll win that. And it doesn't work that way in boxing. You don't win fights because a fan base says we automatically know he'll win, so you don't have to fight him. It doesn't work that way. If that was the case, we wouldn't know. We wouldn't be marbling over the great Salvador Sanchez or Julio Cesar Chavez or the great marvelous Marvin Hagler or Sugar Ray Robinson or Ali or Evander Holyfield or Lennox Lewis. It doesn't work that way. The only way you're going to prove that you are the best fighter, you're going to have to fight the other top guys. And if you don't fight the other top guys, then just because you say he's the best doesn't mean a goddamn thing to me. Well,
right.
Exactly.
That's not everybody, man.
They act. One thing that's weird. They act like it's wrong to want to see Javonte fight Devin or fight in their mind. Is something wrong with wanting? Like, what's wrong with that, fam? Ain't they all good fighters, right? Right. So you don't want to see the best fighters fight the best fighters? You said the regurgitated theme that I always hear about Javonte is, oh, will he get in the bag? Bro, what the fuck that got to do with you? What that got to do with you? Ain't you a boxing fan? You don't want to see him fight Devin and all these people? Nah.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what your problem is, Julius. This is your problem, brother. You want the black man to cancel out the other black man.
No more than I wanted to see Tyson fight Holyfield. What's wrong with that? No more than I wanted to see Tyson fight Holyfield and Lennox and everybody else.
That fight was way too late, man. I wish they would have fought way earlier.
Coach was comparing these guys with legends like Holyfield. Marvel Hagel. Dude, some of these guys don't fight nobody. They have no risk. Fight someone. One guy. Look at Javonte Davis' resume. Look at Jermall Charlo's resume. They don't fight nobody.
Go ahead,
one guy.
Go ahead, Spicy.
First of all, hi guys. Hope everyone's having a good night. I was gonna say, Jules is always trying to put us against each other. He's trying to make Canelo fight Zurdo. Now he's trying to have Haney fight.
Oh, Spicy, come on, man!
I'm the game master. That's right. I'm gonna pit everybody against everybody.
Yes.
I'm the Shogun.
So it's a crime. So you're saying it's a crime for like Canelo and Zurdo to fight each other? Is that
It's a big crime, yes.
Oh my God, girl!
The only crime.
Come on.
She's saying that I'm trying to have them fight each other. I'm saying that if Zurdo wins, I'm not even saying me. Forget me. Take me out of it. I'm saying if Zurdo wins, that's what people are gonna start demanding. That is the truth. That's what they're gonna ask for, and Zurdo's gonna ask for it too. Shit, he asking for it now. He ain't even want a goddamn fight
Spicy
yet.
came on here with a plan already.
I did.
For those that don't know, Spicy is Team Capricorn.
I am.
So, you know what I'm saying? We always got a plan. If we don't got shit else, we got a fucking plan. You know what I mean? But on some real shit, that's what's going to happen with that. If he wins that fight, to the conversation that we had previously, if Zurdo wins that Bivol fight, Canelo's going to be under a lot of pressure to fight him. It's not because I want it, you know, like it just is what it is. Like, yeah, they're going to come after him. They're going to pressure him on social media the way they did with the Golovkin fight. And I feel marquee-wise, that has the potential to be a massive fight in America, a huge fight. Everybody going to come out for that fucking shit.
Oh, and yeah, but it's going to be a one-sided beatdown, though. Canelo can't beat Zurdo.
You know, to talk about it, Shelton. A lot of people feel different about Zurdo Ramirez, right? Some people think he's a good fighter. Some people think he's nothing to write home about. What do you think about this fighter?
Zurdo Ramirez, I've been watching him since 2016 when he fought Jesse Hart twice. The guy got a gas tank. The guy got a hell of a chin. He's perpetual motion, punches hard. He's a dog. He's going to outdog Bivol because he's going to corner Bivol and make him fight. And he's going to beat him up.
So you got Zurdo winning that fight?
I got Zurdo winning that fight. Zurdo Ramirez is 44-0 with 30 knockouts. And I'm telling anybody, if you know anything about boxing, you know that if you beat 44 people in a row, you can fight. I don't care who they are. You can fight.
Coach, you agree with that shit? You think Zurdo gonna be the one to beat Bivol?
Man, Shelton loves Zurdo. Shelton been telling me about Zurdo since last year. I'm not high on him. I'm not high on him at all. But Shelton been telling me, Coach, I'm telling you now, Zurdo is the one. Zurdo is the one. I totally disagree with that. That's what brother Shelton, man. I think Bivol is just gonna beat him. I think Zurdo's too slow. I think the footwork and the hand speed is going to be too much for him. That's what I think.
Benavidez has the best chance at getting Bivol because of his power, man. That's what I say.
Yeah, that one punch power, man. That he'll hit you and it'll turn into a completely different fight. Spicy, how do you feel about that fight? Bivol Ramirez. Who in your Capricornian mind is going to win that fight?
So at first, I was Team Bivol. I was like, no one's going to beat Bivol. Team Bivol, what he did to Canelo, he made him look really terrible. His jab is the best. But now, since I've seen Zurdo lately, and everybody's talking very well about him, I'm going to put my money on Zurdo.
Wow. So we got 2 for Zurdo. Country, is that how you have that shit? Zurdo gonna win that shit?
I got Bivol on points. I think it's gonna be a good fight. It's not gonna be a walk in the park. It's gonna be a hard fight. I think Zurdo will put pressure on him, throw punches and bunches, obviously, because that's his MO. But I think he will make some mistakes, and I think Bivol will capitalize it and outpoint him in the end.
Drew,
but come on, Bivol couldn't even knock Canelo out, which is a shorter, tinier dude.
News flash. You don't gotta knock someone else in the fight.
Listen, that's a very fair point. That he beat Canelo. We all saw it, but he didn't knock him out.
Yeah, but
he didn't knock him down.
You have to knock a fighter out in order to win the fight.
You saw that fight
on points.
You saw that fight more than once, Jules.
And then, guys, come on. What did Canelo do in that fight? He did absolutely nothing.
When did Bivol sit on his feet, plant his punches, and try to knock Canelo out in that fight? All.
That's the thing. And that's what creates the intrigue for me. That Bivol doesn't sit on his punches. Never does. He's always on the balls of his feet. He doesn't go in there with the intention of knocking the guy out, which is what makes him difficult to fight. That he doesn't sit there with you and trade. He sticks and moves, and he keeps it long and loose when on the outside. And he's fast enough to do that, even though sometimes he's the shorter guy. He was the shorter guy with Lenin Castillo. He was the shorter guy with Joe Smith Jr. He was the shorter guy with Craig Richards, but he was still able to box from the outside because he's so fucking fast.
And his punches had enough on them for Canelo didn't want to play that game.
Okay, I got.
And furthermore, can we say Canelo's shown that he's been in there with stronger punches than Zurdo, and his chin hold up?
No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't.
I don't know that I could say that.
What serious puncher like Joe Smith has Zurdo been in there with, or Triple G, or B?
You know, I don't think Zurdo has been with anybody that's like, you know.
What elite fighter has Zurdo fought?
All right, one at a time. Spicy, what elite fighter has Spicy? What elite fighter has Zurdo fought?
Hey, that's what I'm asking.
Oh shit, Shelton.
Zurdo Ramirez would knock out Triple G.
No. We can't be hypothetical knockout.
Listen to me.
In 44 fights.
Listen to me. This dude is too big for those.
We're not doing
guys.
Fantasy fights here, though.
He's too big for those little guys.
Well,
you'll find out. Oh, put it this way. You're right. We're not doing fantasy fights. You will find out on November 5th. Okay. Zurdo Ramirez is going to stop this kid. He's going to knock him out.
Coach, do you feel that Zurdo Ramirez could knock out Triple G?
You know what? I don't. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I don't know because Triple G can take a punch, man. I seen him take a clean uppercut from Canelo and he just ate it. You know what I mean? But Zurdo was different. I haven't seen. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I'm not high on Zurdo the way Shelton is. I like, who was he fought? He hasn't fought anybody. I look at him like look at Jaime Munguia. He's like, okay, you fought. Who you fought? You know what I mean? So,
hey, Jules, let me
Coach, Mexicans aren't high on Zurdo.
Go ahead, country.
Spicy, the reason why Canelo didn't do anything is because he was getting outworked. He tried to do something to Bivol, but Bivol was outworking him. And
Canelo didn't do nothing towards Triple G the last fight either. He barely even, did something in the beginning rounds.
We're talking about Canelo and Bivol now.
Well, the thing is, that's my thing, is that Canelo hasn't been Canelo. Canelo wasn't the Canelo, that we're all used to seeing when he fought Bivol at all.
Yeah, but that's gonna make you question at if Canelo didn't look the way he did before. Either he's burning out, or Bivol's at a much higher level than what people thought he was, and he made Canelo look that way.
That's a question. That is a decent question.
And
I don't know if he's burning out, because what I've seen the past two fights, Canelo has not been an elite fighter.
Look. Let's say this. See, obviously he did not look good with Bivol. I think we all agree on that. Didn't look good with Bivol. But with Golovkin, I can't say that I felt he looked bad. Golovkin wasn't fighting. It's like the Amanda Serrano-Sarah Mahfoud fight. Sarah's not fighting, so that makes you look funny because she's not fighting. She's backpedaling. That's all she's doing is backpedaling. She's not fighting. With Golovkin, I feel like in that first round, he felt the power, he felt the speed, and he said, "No, I'm not gonna take no risk."
Real quick, I gotta interrupt. Someone get the screenshot of what Tank just tweeted before he deletes it.
What he said?
He said they're playing games.
Already know, and he's gonna delete it. I already know. Oh shit! I got you. You won't get away. You won't get away from me, Javonte. I got your motherfucking ass. Got your motherfucking ass. Go ahead and delete that shit. I got you.
All I say this is Bivol has done his training camp out there in the Middle East, and people are gonna be surprised how easily he gets rid of Zurdo.
Bro, I mean, you listen. You saying some serious fucking shit.
I just have that feeling, bro. Like he's gonna style on him and. He's going to Bob, make the fucking better BF fight. We want that shit.
That's the same thing y'all said about Canelo. Canelo going to fight this guy. This guy's a cherry pick. Nobody knows this guy. He ain't fought nobody. He went in there and mollywopped that dude.
Coach Malachi said he had to bounce.
I bet. Let me upload this.
That's the
All right,
same
hey,
thing.
I'm gonna holler at you, Jules, man. I'm gonna holler at y'all tomorrow, man.
I'm gonna holler at you.
All
All right, coach.
All right,
All right, Coach. Have a good one.
Yes, sir.
We fucking got this shit. So Javonte Davis just uploaded this to his social media, and it reads, "You, me, I'm you." Javonte Davis also said, "Yeah, they playing games. I need to take my talent somewhere else." More of that shit.
Hey, now.
You
He
got,
sounds-
Jules,
he
you got the
sounds
free-
like
he can't delete him
Ryan.
now, Jules. You got him.
I fucking got you, bro. Fucking got you, Javonte. You can't escape me.
The chickens are coming home to roost.
He's missing that $7 million for Tevin Farmer now.
Well, I think what that honestly, I think what that really accents, if it accents anything, there are money problems over there. And that shit is not news. There are money problems over there. Javonte Davis fights exclusively on the Showtime platform. He doesn't fight on Fox like the other guys. Like y'all remember the Charlo brothers, they fought on Fox. Errol, he fought on Fox. Mikey Garcia fought on Fox. Several guys fought on Fox. Javonte never fought on Fox. He fights exclusively on Showtime, and I believe Showtime has serious money problems. That's why they ain't got no schedule. It's 2 months left in this year. What they got besides Jake Paul? What they got? Besides the Jake Paul, Anderson Silva.
And go to their schedule. Go look at all their schedule from October to December last year, Jules. They had fights. They had fights all last year. Yeah.
Last year and this year, I've been saying it. I believe the budget was cut yet again because it's like, well, the shows y'all did last year, that shit didn't bring in no numbers. So when them higher ups tell Stephen, listen, Stephen, this is the budget for this year, bro. We ain't gonna be spending all this cash to get these little bitty bit of TV ratings that you be bringing us. Nah, bro, you just gonna have to make it work with that, bro.
You know what? He's backing up what Broner said, and who is he tight with? Broner.
And this is the opposite of what Steven Espinosa was trying to spin doctor on Twitter the other day. What Tank said.
Do y'all agree? Look, Antonio Luna says Canelo is near the back nine of his career and is looking to play golf more. Do y'all agree with that? Do you believe that Canelo's on the back nine?
I can't reveal my sources, but I talked to some world championship trainers the other day. If Canelo doesn't have a tune-up in his first fight back and it's against an elite opponent, he's going to look worse than he looked in Bivol and Triple G, they said.
What is that based on?
The body breaking down, and they said the body breaking down from all the strength and conditioning work he does, and the clenbuterol use, the PED use, basically.
Think about this, Jules. Think about this. The guy's been fighting professionally since he was 15 years old.
True.
62 fights. That's a lot of training camps, a lot of road work, a lot of rounds, and a lot of wear and tear.
Yeah. And
this guy today is not the same guy he was 5 years ago. He's not.
Gotta agree
Coach,
with that.
I agree, but like these trainers said, like all this strength and conditioning work is not what Duran and Hagler and all those guys used to do. They just did the road work and boxing work. All this strength and conditioning, they said, is shortening the lifespan because you're training them like CrossFit athletes, and they're not CrossFit athletes. They're boxers.
Yeah, like there's I believe that there are things like, look, one thing that I think is great for cardio, better than running, but it's low impact, so you don't get the wear and tear on the joints. Swimming is that to me. If you're trying to get your cardio up and all of that, and your stamina up, swim. That's a full body workout.
That what Cotto did, Jules. He's like, I wish I would have discovered cycling spin class when I was young.
Yeah, because remember
Peloton.
The last couple of years of Cotto's career, he said that I think it was Freddie Roach that said it. It was whoever was training him at the time towards the end. He said that Cotto was doing things in preparation for fights that a man his age should not be doing. Like, no, you shouldn't be doing all that road work because it's harder on your joints running like that. And if you want to alleviate something like that, swim. You'll get the same, if not a better workout. Swimming. You'll be fucking exhausted though, because that shit is exhausting, man.
Right.
You know, I think it's really hard to say that he's at the end of his career when he just, became pound for pound P4P king just, last November. And he's done so much. I think he's gonna come back better than ever when he does come back.
You mean after a
think
cycle?
That might be the problem.
Yeah.
No, listen. I don't think what's happening. Wait, let me say this. I don't like the knee-jerk reactions in boxing because the people that know, which is you, Drew, and you, Spicy, and the people on this panel, everybody here, unlike many people out there, they knew that Bivol might beat him. They knew that.
Oh, that was apparent. Come on, how could Bivol not beat him?
And that's the point that I'm making, that he lost the fight to a guy that would beat Jamal, that would beat Demetrius Andre, that would beat David Benavidez. He would beat him. Yes, he would beat him. All right. So Canelo losing to a guy like that, I can't look at that and say, well, nah, this dude's on the back. Nah, no, fam, you really bit off more than you could chew. That's what I saw. With Golovkin, it was different. I seen him trying it with Golovkin, and what stood out to me is Golovkin is the one that's not fighting. You're not fighting, bro. In the second fight, you was fighting. In the first fight, you was fighting. You was trying to get in there and hash shit out. In the third fight, you wasn't trying to do nothing. You was just trying not to get hit.
He waited it out.
Can we say this? Can we say this? That okay, in the last two fights, Bivol, I'll give you that. Bivol was a better, bigger man that night. But I was there for the third Golovkin fight. A 31-year, how old is Canelo? 31?
32.
A 32-year-old man in his prime against a 40-year-old man should be pushed off the cliff. And
that's no. This is not just a 40-year-old man.
What I'm saying is he could have dictated and pressed that fight a little bit more, like he did against Billy Joe, like he did against Callum Smith, like he did against Caleb Plant.
IQ is way too high for Canelo.
That's what I'm saying.
It's not about the IQ.
It is.
That is the wily old dog that has, listen, that motherfucker has been fighting for how long, and he's never even been knocked down, let alone
Canelo didn't even go to the body like he wanted, like he should have.
Because this motherfucker wasn't fighting, bro. Go back and I'm telling you, I watched it back. I'm like, I know why it looked like this. This motherfucker's not fighting. He felt that power, and he's like, yo, you know what? Fuck this. I'm trying to stick around. So I'm gonna survive. Don't you see that he came alive? Wait. Don't you see that he came alive in the closing rounds? Golovkin started fighting. Finally, he started letting his hands go. He knew I can't open up on him. He gonna fuck me up. So I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna survive.
And I'm gonna realize he had more money to make.
No, I think they also had a gentleman's agreement. Like, look, let's just go make this money. And we're not going to knock each other out.
That's basically what it was, because, Canelo wasn't going to win nothing off of that fight. And so you could tell that Canelo didn't give it his all. But, like, why should he? He's not going to get another bout off of it.
You guys are glossing over the biggest issue. The biggest issue with Alvarez right now is this dude has gas tank issues.
He's always had that, though.
Exactly. And that's why I don't think he beats Benavidez. I don't think he beats Bivol ever.
Have you seen Benavidez? Benavidez he's not very active.
Can I say this? Shelton, let me say this.
Yeah,
if you really watch Benavidez, if you just really watch him and the shit that he do, fam, that shit that he do is not going to work against no good boxer. I'm telling you it's not. That shit he did to you, that shit, bro, you're not going to sit there and do that to not a good boxer. You could do that to Javonte Davis and Ronald Ellis and over the hill. You can't do none of that dumb shit to no Canelo. Nah, no way, bro.
I understand what you're saying, but I know this for a fact. The person who usually loses a fight is the person who gets tired first.
But I'm going to tell you this, Shelton.
This guy gets tired.
I agree.
Anywhere around the 5th to the 7th round, he gasses.
And that is exactly why
against a dude that can punch, he's either going to beat you or he's going to stop you.
And here's what's going to happen. He's not fighting David Benavidez till David Benavidez can't make 168 no more, and it'll just be a repeat of the Chavez Jr. fight.
I ain't mad at that. Fuck Benavidez.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
Can I say something? Look, the problem, what we are talking about, I think we are missing something. One of the big issues for Canelo now is he has been too successful. This guy has 60 fights. He's no fucking journeyman or gatekeeper. This is a guy that's been has accomplished a lot, has win a lot of money. So taking it out of the ring 1 year, he has he has another daughter. Maybe he can make another couple of kids in the way. So maybe he thinks, fuck it, I'm retired. I did enough.
This is the thing. You can't. The guys, look. A lot of the guys that, like Floyd, he had a 2-year hiatus. Fury had a 2-year hiatus. Leonard had a 5-year hiatus. George was gone for, I think, a decade. These guys that they have these long careers that they span many years, they had that break. Canelo never had that break. He literally never had that break.
I got an update. Javonte just deleted a tweet. But it was not. Here's what it was. Ron Boy tweeted at him saying, "You need to get out of the witness protection." And then Javonte said, "You also said Tevin. You also said Gary Russell would beat me, and he lost to a nobody." And then he deleted that tweet.
Hey, Jules, by the way, Jack Nuff says Canelo fought 6 times in 2 years. He needs a break. I agree with that.
I agree.
Yeah, 100%.
Listen, I'm being honest. I really feel like people are jumping to conclusions, and it's because they don't look at things for what they are, right? So look at this for what it is. In the last, let's say, 12 months, this dude has been fighting nothing but champions. Nothing but champions. Smith, Plant, Callum Smith is running around light heavyweight, knocking everything out. He fought him. He beat him. Billy Joe Saunders, who was an unbeaten 2-division champion. He fought him. He stopped him. He stopped Yildirim in between, but he don't count. Then he fights Caleb Plant. The same Caleb Plant that's out here knocking out Andre Durrell better than Benavidez, Canelo knocked him out, and he didn't stop there. He goes up to light heavy. He fights a fucking light heavyweight. He comes back down. He fights Golovkin. I feel it's not that he's on the back 9. He needs to rest. He needs to rest. Like, he's too busy.
That's a blistering pace, man. I mean, for any fight.
Steve Kim's listening. He said he wrote a story on Cotto doing the cycling towards the end of his career for cardio.
Throw Steve the link, man.
About to post it right now. I believe that his problem isn't. It's like, no, he didn't get hit a lot in a lot of those fights, guys. He didn't get hit a lot in the Callum Smith fight or the Saunders fight or even the Plant fight. Well, I don't believe it's wear and tear. I just think, yo, dog, you need to take your foot off the gas and recharge. That's what I think you need to do.
Callum Smith, all he did was lay against the ropes and cover up. He didn't.
That's it. That's the fight. Like, it ain't, oh, you got hit too much and now you starting to, you type tender. Like, nah, he didn't get hit a lot in none of them fights. And even the Bivol fight, Bivol wasn't beating the shit out of him and ragdolling him. He was just outboxing him. He was outboxing him, yes, but not ragdolling him. And I'm like, I see more a guy who needs a vacation. Like, maybe you shouldn't come back next year. Maybe you should take the year off because you're doing too much. Nobody else in boxing has the schedule that Canelo has kept. Nobody.
That's true. That is 100% facts.
No, ain't nobody out here fighting champions that often.
That's true. But also, I think Marvin Hagler said it best, y'all. Rest in peace to the marvelous one.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to get up at 4 in the morning and do road work when you're sleeping on silk sheets.
That's true. Yep. That's true. But that is true. That's a factor too. That sometimes he did make history, and if he retired today, there ain't a question in my mind that Canelo Alvarez is a first ballot Hall of Famer. There's not a question in my mind.
That's a fact.
4-division champion, 2-time unified, undisputed. Ring Magazine, like 8. He took 8 belts from 8 champions, not former. I don't do that shit. He literally took 8 belts from 8 champions that was holding belts. He could retire today and be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He could. He don't really need to do nothing else.
Do you really think Canelo can be inducted in the Hall of Fame without facing David?
First ballot.
Oh, he's our
the Mexican.
Oh yeah.
Guys, come on.
He needs Jamal Charlo for his legacy. Otherwise, he don't get in the hall. He needs Jamal.
That's hilarious.
He needs Jamal Charlo like he needs a hole in his head.
Bro, Jamal don't beat him, bro. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, bro, but we see that, look, ain't Juan Montiel, and I said this for 2.5 years, Juan Montiel ain't shit. Don't tell me that, oh, yeah, he's solid. He got better because Charlo couldn't knock him out. Motherfucking Adames went in there and beat the fucking brakes off of that man, B. Carlos Adames. I'm telling you, if I'm Canelo, my comeback fight is Jamal Charlo. That's easy work.
Pero también no tiene la experiencia que tiene Canelo. Canelo has gone up and fought 175. He's, been everywhere, fought everyone. They don't have that same experience as he does.
Agreed. And I think also, I'm glad you brought that up. You know what people say about Roy? He went up and he should have never came back down. Now, what did Canelo do in the Bivol fight?
Came back down.
No, he went up. And then he came back down for the Golovkin fight. So if he didn't look right, some of that could be that. They're like, fam, like you doing a lot, bro. You going up, you going down, you like champion. You doing a lot of shit. I think the kid needs a break. I don't think it's that, oh, he's deteriorating and it's over for him. I just think that kid needs a break. Like, fam, Floyd took a break. You could take a break, bro.
Well, did you see him in the sauna? He was drenched. Que perdió 10 libras in the sauna. That's crazy. Like 2 days before the fight.
That's not like, honestly think, and I would prefer, let that dude take a fucking break, bro.
Yeah, and then after that, he needs to stay at 168. I think that's his best weight.
Look, there's a lot of fights at 68 that make more sense than going back to 75. The problem is boxing don't work like that. If Zurdo go in there and he do to Bivol what Shelton says he gonna do to Bivol, bro, people gonna want that fight. I'm just telling y'all, they gonna want that fight. And they gonna hound Canelo to go back up there and fight Zurdo. That's what's gonna happen. Not because I wanted to. That's just the way it is.
Look,
I want Zurdo to fight Benavidez. I want Benavidez to go up to 175 and fight everybody up there.
He can't beat Zurdo.
And those two guys are from different areas of Mexico, right?
No, Benavidez is not from Mexico. He's from Arizona.
Okay. He's a gringo.
And he's a güero.
He's Honduran. As a pocho.
No, not even a pocho. Mexican people don't honestly think he's Mexican.
He's not. I'm telling you,
they think he's Ecuadoriano.
That dude is from Ecuador. Ain't he from Ecuador?
Ecuador, huh?
I don't know.
He not like, man. He not Mexican, man. Like, don't let that bandera roja bullshit fool you.
My bad. I thought he was, man.
Bro, I'm more Mexican than him, and I'm from the fucking Caribbean.
That's what's gonna happen. Canelo's gonna say, okay, what's it? 2022? Oh, 2024. David, you want the fight? Come down to 68.
I'm with that shit. Why not?
I don't mind that.
Even the president, Mauricio Suleiman, with WBC says, he doesn't care about Benavidez. Benavidez had his shot and he tricked it off.
Pero eso no es la verdad. It's the truth.
Es la verdad.
Like, if you really think about, and this is why I don't pity him, bro.
And then they gave him another shot, and what happened?
Eso es lo que, and when they gave him that shot, when they asked Samson Lukowicz, yo, when are we going to get the plant fight? Bro, you the one that didn't want to do it. It wasn't even Caleb. It was you. You said, nah, we're going to wait. We're going to do 2 more. It's like, fam, like, there's no reason for nobody to feel sorry for you.
After all the trash Tank tweeted out, too,
Someone said you got Ellerby crying, and he's like, well, I'm not signed to them anymore, so I can't talk about them.
Ooh.
He says I can't be talking about them and deleted it.
Well, if he not signed to them, I don't know what the fuck that shit mean.
He's still Al Heyman.
the rumor mill says he signed exclusively to Showtime now.
Well, that goes back to the prediction that I made ahead of the Rolly fight. I said, just because he's not with Floyd doesn't mean he's not with Showtime. Could still be with Showtime, and it'll be the same exact situation. It'll just be that, oh, maybe Javonte Davis is his own promoter or some shit like that.
Hey, where'd Steve go, man?
He's right here. It says his device is not connected, but he's backstage.
Oh man,
He's chilling.
I think
He backstage.
Tank's going to go to BLK Prime. I'm not mad at it.
I mean,
I tell you what, the best thing you're just talking about Alvarez. The best thing he can do is stay away from 75. Leave them dudes alone. They're too big.
I agree with you. But
I agree with you 100% as well.
I agree with you, but it's just that you.
Personally, I don't think he belongs there.
I honestly don't think.
If you listen to Bivol, he said after the fight, "I don't give myself credit for this fight."
He did.
No, he was making fun of him. He was like, I didn't feel nothing. He was hitting the arm the whole time.
Here. He said, this is not his weight class.
Bivol said
this is not his weight class. He doesn't belong here. That's what Bivol said.
Bivol said, and I quote, I don't consider myself pound for pound because this is not his division. He's a smaller guy. And it's crazy that the day after the fight, you had a lot of real nut hugging motherfuckers. No, it was just the skills. It was just I'm like, no, it's the size too, fam. That's a naturally bigger guy. You can't hurt him. He could have had them same skills, but if he was a 60-pounder or a 68-pounder, Canelo's punches would have hurt. The fact that he's a 175-pounder, you can't put a dent in him. You can't slow him down. You can't stop him. It matters.
A guy who walks around at about 190, maybe 200.
Like, a motherfucker never had a fight when he don't understand that size matters, my guy. Fighting a dude that weigh 160 ain't the same as fighting a 250-pound man. That is not the same thing, man.
That's for sure.
It's not the same thing. Like I said, look, what I thought was going to happen in the fight was maybe Canelo will throw more punches than Bivol in a round, and maybe he could win the round on activity. But as far as knocking him out or putting a dent, I knew he couldn't because Joe Smith Jr. couldn't knock him out, and he actually landed a right hand. I'm like, bro, that dude ate a whole right hand from Joe Smith. Canelo not knocking him out, bro. He not knocking him out. You could knock out Callum Smith. You ain't knocking out no motherfucking Bivol.
Exactly. Facts.
And I think Smith is a good fighter, by the way. So I don't even want that to sound crazy, but I'm like, you were landing at will on Callum, and you couldn't stop him. So
I think Joe Smith beats Canelo. Honestly,
you wilding. You wilding.
If he catches him, he stops. If he catches him, he stops.
Bro,
you've been having way too much cafecito.
Bro, he catches him, he stops. The guy's too good.
Bro, I know you playing. I know you playing.
No, that dude is too little, man. That dude is 5'7.5 inches tall.
But it ain't that. It's that
Joe at 175. Nobody.
Joe swing too wide, bro. Like Joe punches come from the parking lot, bro. They come from the parking lot.
That's true. That's true. But if he catch that little bitty dude, you gonna stop?
Come on, come on, man. Nah, you exaggerate.
Man, you guys, look, look. I've been watching this shit for a long time. That dude, he done some things, and he's great for the sport. I give him that. He ain't what you think he is. I'm telling you.
Nah, I think he is what I think he is, but not at 75. It's asking too much. That's what I really believe. Like you good at 68. You just right at 68. Yeah. Any more than that? Stay there, bro. Like really, from what I saw, just stay away from better beef, bro. Don't even. I used to think he stood a chance. I don't think that anymore. Stay away. What
about Makabu?
I don't know, man.
Now come on, now. You couldn't hurt Bivol. Stop it.
But he been knocked out before, though. Makabu been knocked out before, though. I'm just gonna say he has been knocked out.
Not to mention.
Hold on. Who knocked out Makabu? A dude from 168, Tony Bellew. For those that don't remember, Tony Bellew used to be and he knocked out Makabu. So yeah.
Not to mention, the rumor is that Triple G did give Bivol the ¿cómo se dice? The way to beat Canelo.
Yeah. Passion for Beauty says, if size don't matter, then he knew he should fight Errol or Crawford.
Say that again.
I'm just saying.
Say that again. If size don't matter.
If size don't matter, then he knew he should fight Crawford or Errol. But that's my point. But that's the point I'm making. Look, it's a
fight. They
have
weight classes for a reason.
It's weight classes for a reason. Size matters. It always matters. When has size not mattered? The fuck? It's a difference between fighting a 160 and a damn 175. Like, yeah, it's a difference, of course. Shit. He probably rehydrate the 200 pounds for all I know. I think Canelo should stand.
We know Zurdo does. He came in at 205 in his last fight.
Bro, he fought as a cruiserweight. That's what I be trying to tell people, that when he rehydrate the night of the Bivol fight, he gonna be a cruiserweight. Like, legit, like he gonna be a full-on cruise. Because the WBA don't have a 10-pound weight cap. Only the IBF does that shit. He could be at 200 and change in that shit the night of the fight. Bivol going I just don't think it's as easy as Drew says it is. That's all I'm saying. I don't think it's as easy. But then again, credit to Drew. He did say that Bam was going to be. He did say Bam was going to stop Sorun Visa. He did say that.
I just have that feeling that Bivol is going to turn it up a notch. Like, everybody I've talked to said, like, he's got another gear that he hasn't shown in fights.
I'm going to go to the great Steve Kim. Steve Kim, do you believe that the Ramirez fight will be a difficult fight for Dimitri or easy fight?
No, hold on for 1 second.
I got you.
I think it'll be difficult. I mean, I think there's a size advantage for Dimitri because, I mean, hold on for 1 second. Let me turn this off here. And, the thing with Dimitri is he's a little bit of an inconsistent fighter, given the fact that there's a lot of fights he looks average and ordinary, but he does pull away and shift gears when he fights better guys. I think he wins a decision. I could see it kind of being an 8-4, 7-5 type of fight. Biggest difference really is probably the footwork, the ability to slide in and out and be a little bit smoother off the trigger. The one thing about this new, more exciting version of Zurdo's, keep this in mind, he's fought older guys. I think Golden Boy's done a really nice job of just kind of matchmaking him in a way to,
I agree,
to let him look good. But he also got hit with a lot of right hands with an age Uneski Gonzalez. I thought that was
I agree.
alarming.
Yes, I agree.
So that's the thing. I just get the sense that, again, Bivol truly is an elite fighter. Zurdo Ramirez, we have to be honest, before the last couple of fights, he may have been the most uninteresting 40-0 plus fighter in Mexican history that the Mexicans didn't even care about him.
That's very true. That's very true.
Do you file him in the same file cabinet as Ray Vargas?
No, nobody's as bad as Ray Vargas. Ray Vargas is the Cuban version of Rigondeaux. In other words, when he fights and I'm there, I go to the bathroom or I grab something to drink or eat. Ray Vargas, Miguel Vasquez, it just goes to show you that the reputation of every Mexican fighter being exciting is not true. They're not exactly Miguel Lara. Let's just put it that way. By the way, guys, tomorrow my column for Snack is going to be on the Crawford situation. I think we should have seen this coming to a certain degree.
Yes.
The boxing business overall is to blame. What I do not understand these people criticizing Crawford. He did not have a signed contract. There's no guarantee of an agreement on forthcoming from Heyman or Spence. And like I told you this before, I believe that there was a very clear agenda.
Yes.
With certain members of the media and other people to leverage and force Crawford into a bad deal that he did not want. And if Floyd Mayweather himself, who I think is pretty plugged into PBC, told us about 2 weeks ago, guys, this fight is not happening this year. It's going to happen maybe down the line. So what do you want Crawford to do? Sit on his ass after not fighting since last November? It makes no sense to me, guys. The people that are out there criticizing Crawford as if somehow that Heyman and Spence have a right to tell him not to work and make money.
I mean, that's the point that I've raised throughout, that we already knew for the most part this fight, if it does happen, it won't be this year. We knew that bit of it. So him getting out there in December against Avanesyan is not a substitute, is not an alternative. It's an in-between fight because Spence wasn't happening this year. I don't understand why that's so hard for people to understand. That fight wasn't going to happen this year. All he's doing is keep him busy.
Jules, for years I heard every time a fighter would take an easy fight for big money, this group of people would say, oh, yeah, he's getting paid. He's getting that bag. Well, so was Crawford. Congratulate him. You can live vicariously through the money that you'll never touch just as easily as you can for Terrence Crawford as you can for Adrian Broner or Tank Davis. Okay?
Speaking of Tank, Steve, how about those deleted tweets? Will they be gone by the morning time?
Oh, they're already gone. I checked. They're already gone. But trust me, I was faster off that screenshot trigger than a Wyatt Earp, and here's what I think should happen.
Steve,
we should have an art gallery on Tank Davis's deleted tweets and frame them up and put them at the Smithsonian.
You think I don't? You better look at the screen.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this about Javonte. He must be trolling us by this time because he has to know the gig that no matter what he tweets at this point now, given his history, all of us are going to rush to screenshot it.
Yes.
So I wonder if there's a part of it that's a troll, but who knows? Maybe there's a snag into the Ryan Garcia, negotiations, which I hear are actually taking place. I don't know how deep they are into it. But by the way, guys, you want to cue Alanis Morissette? How about Ryan Garcia of all people saying today, "Hey, boxing's boring. Nobody wants to face one another."
Oh,
I'm thinking, wow. Hey, Pot, this is Kettle. Meet him.
I screenshotted that immediately.
Right. I mean, Jules, this is a guy who literally was the mandatory for Devin Haney twice. In fact, I think he fought at least one eliminator, and he never faced him. Give me a damn break.
Look, I feel like Ryan and Javonte collectively are trolling us, but I will say also, on one end, I'm with Steve. This could be a troll because by now Javonte has to know that we're on to him. And he always does this before a fight gets announced. If you've been paying attention, he always does this. He'll put something out there. It'll stir things up, get everybody talking about him, and then shortly a fight is announced. So at the same time, the Showtime situation is very real. The thing with them and Paramount, the thinning budget, the lack of a schedule. There's still 2 months left in this year. What does Showtime have besides Jake Paul and Anderson Silva?
They have November 5th in Minnesota with David Morrell.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and that's just like a souped-up showbox card, basically.
Yeah.
And there are some rumors of them going December 17th. I believe TGB has put down a hold on the arena in Atlanta. So
could be a Davis fight. He's fought in Atlanta.
Yeah. By the way, I think I told you this last year, and I've said this to other shows, and Coach Malik, I heard him earlier. I kept asking people, and you made an interesting point, Jules, that I've written about in the past. The problem with a lot of today's contracts with fighters, especially the big-name fighters that have a long-term deal with a promoter, is that they all have built-in set minimums. So you're right, Jules. It doesn't matter if they fight you, me, King Kong, Jack Dempsey, Muhammad Ali, or Spicy. They always get a set amount. It's like $8 million. And here's the problem. The value of each fight fluctuates based on the value of the fighter, the market value, the time and place. So, and that's an issue. I remember when Oscar De La Hoya in 1997, as the biggest name in the sport, I wrote a big story when I was at ESPN. He fought 5 times, 4 times on pay-per-view, once on HBO against David Kamau. Both Oscar and Bob told me on the record, every fight we began negotiations at ground zero, and then we figured out the value of the fight. So in other words, depending on if he was fighting Pernell Whitaker, Miguel Angel Gonzalez, or Fredo Rivera, or Hector Camacho, Bob and Oscar came to an agreement of what do we think this fight's going to do pay-per-view, what's the site fee going to be, what are the ancillary revenues that can be created by it. So this way, Oscar would be paid fairly, and Bob could actually turn a profit, and everyone could go and make their money. The way the business is structured today, and again, I'm not trying to start a GoFundMe account for any promoter. A lot of promoters, right off the bat, they know we can't make money. And look, I'm not one to really defend Al Heyman, but when it comes to Crawford Spence, he's like anyone else. You don't go into a business venture thinking, boy, I hope I don't lose that much money. That's in essence what it's become.
But I guess the reason that I hold Al's feet to the fire is because there was an active effort to diminish the value of Terrence Crawford long before this year. They kept him out of their graphics on PBC on Fox. Richard Schaefer literally said people want to see Mikey Garcia versus Spence more than Crawford. He literally said that.
Yeah, Jules, here's the thing. You created this market. You're the one who helped begin this trend in 2015 of everyone having to overpay everyone. Mm-hmm. Then the Zone came out and elevated that even worse. So then everyone had to sign their fighters to be on their platforms exclusively. And look, Terrence Crawford benefited from that because someone at Top Rank said, Steve, his contract came at a perfect time because we needed to secure him, and Vasyl Lomachenko got into our DPN. So they, in essence, won the lottery. And so, yeah, look, Al Heyman created this whole other side of the street mentality, the division in the boxing world. Let's diminish the value and the profile of Terrence Crawford. And guess what? Wow, maybe it's not Bob Arum's fault. And by the way, here's the issue with Wilder Fury 2 and 3. They did co-promotions where Top Rank and PBC each were responsible for paying their guy. So there was a shared risk. Well, Bob Arum has to be the luckiest guy now because he doesn't have to even participate in that money-losing charade at this point.
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, and I can't even trust myself anymore because I honestly thought that Wilder's ring return would have did 300,000. And the only numbers that are out there, Michael Woods and Rick Glacier, they put out figures. Michael Woods said he heard it did around 50,000. Rick said he heard it did 77,000. Either number, none of that is close to 300,000. So I was way off the mark. I honestly thought, boxing fans are sentimental. It's been a long time since Wilder was in the ring. Maybe out of excitement, sheer excitement, he can get to 300,000, which is half of what he did with Fury the last time out. Nope, apparently not. So I can't even trust that Crawford versus Spence is a 300 to 400,000 buy fight.
Jules, I have a theory that no matter what number you believe that Canelo did against Golovkin, whether it's $500,000 or closer to 900,000, I have a theory that short of a heavyweight fight, because that's a little bit different, that whatever Canelo does on the ceiling, no one else can even do 2/3 of those numbers. And everyone realizes that. Canelo is the last pay-per-view star we're going to have, in my view. I know it's a little bit bleak.
Steve, it's too bleak. That's too bleak. I would say there's...
Who else is putting in the work, Jules? Who else is putting in 40, 50, 60 fights?
I would have to agree with him. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. All these guys at 18-0 at age 23 win a title, and they think, well, I'm a star now. I'm only going to fight twice a year. That's great. You're going to make a really good living. You'll never touch 8 figures the way Canelo did.
You don't even have... Jake Paul can even do that. He ¿qué pasó on his last show? They had to cancel.
Flop. And look, this one's going to flop.
Oh, the tickets are all over the place. If you look at the ticket seating chart, it's not selling well. Keep this in mind. Floyd Mayweather, for him to get to the De La Hoya fight, where it really launched him as a transcendent star, it took him 39 fights. Most careers may not be 39 fights anymore.
Can we say, though, that, and I touched on this before, that we are talking about, at least I feel like we're talking about American fighters, but a foreign fighter, a workhorse, they might be the next pay-per-view star for a period, because those foreign guys, no fuss, no muss, let's fight.
Pero in America?
Well, even still, yeah, no fuss, no muss, let's fight. Look, Bam Rodriguez, I think that kid has potential. Honestly, do
like small though, but there's never been, I would say, a pay-per-view star below the bantamweight level. Size does matter, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, there's only been really one big foreign pay-per-view star, and that's Pacquiao, who had all sorts of really big name Hall of Fame Mexicans to battle.
Yes,
that's the anomaly. But I just think the problem, and I've said this on various shows, and I've written it. I remember asking on Twitter a couple of years ago, do you think a Spence Crawford fight at $80 pay-per-view, because that's what it is now, do you think it does a $500,000 buys? And everyone says, no, probably not. And then you got a real issue then, because based on what I believe both fighters think they are worth and are going to demand, the math does not add up. Guys, these are very, very simple things to figure out. It's just as long as you know how to do basic arithmetic and know how to divide and add and multiply by 2 or by 0.5, you can figure a lot of this out. And I'm just telling you, the one thing that's been shown out, Spence, his pay-per-view numbers have consistently declined since Mikey Garcia.
Yes.
While Terrence Crawford has never really broken through on pay-per-view. And if each guy was looking for 8 figures, which means a minimum of 10, you know what I thought was going to hurt these negotiations, Jules? Just knowing from a psychological perspective of most fighters. I talked to a lot of managers about this. Once Crawford got $6 million for Porter, a fight that probably did not break 150,000 pay-per-views, and Arum took a financial beating. Most fighters are going to think, well, wait a minute. If I'm fighting Porter for 6, if I'm going to get Spence in the biggest fight in boxing, according to some people, I'm going to need at least 12. That's the way they think. There's really
that's the same thing that I thought. But when I heard, Mike Copinger broke that story that Terrence accepted a deal for no money down. I like that. That was a curveball because I'm like, bro, I thought what you thought, that this guy's going to want 10. He just got 6 for Porter. Why wouldn't he want 10?
He had no other option. Once he left Arum and you're out on the street by yourself, freedom is a great thing. It reminds me of those disgruntled people in a marriage. They can't wait to get divorced. And then they figure out, oh, my God, this dating market at age 40 is kind of bad. It's not. I'm just telling you, the grass is not always greener. And I was told by Top Rank several times when it came to Spence Crawford, they said, Steve, we were willing to do the same structure as Wilder Fury. We pay our guy, you pay you guy, we'll share the risk and try to do a true cross promotion. But they also knew as soon as Crawford left, they breathed a sigh of relief because that $4.5 to $6 million that Crawford was getting his last couple of fights now can be allocated throughout their year for their other fights.
And we're seeing that because we're seeing that in the young stable of fight. They just signed the Vargas kid, and they already have the strongest stable of young up-and-comers in boxing. So now all that money they were spending on Crawford, they can spend it on each one of these individual fighters that they're grooming. The other thing is, I just had a brain fart. The other thing is, okay, this fight doesn't happen. Let's say, like, do you have any hope that this fight happens, Steve?
Well, I haven't closed the window. Now, the window has closed on this fight happening this year. There's no doubt about that. Okay.
Yes.
Keep this in mind. The WBO ruled last year that when Terrence Crawford fought Sean Porter on November 20th, that's the fight that I was at in Mandalay Bay. The WBO said your mandatory will be due in 18 months. Okay, because that's kind of a special situation. They said, if you take on Porter right now, it's not a year to your mandatory, it's 18 months. Right now, the number 1 contender is Virgil Ortiz.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe, if you go by, just do the math. If you fought in November of 2021, 18 months would be May of 2023. So I think that Crawford says, okay, let me get a fight here in December. So I'm not out the whole year. And then if this fight does not happen by May of next year, then everyone has to start fulfilling mandatories. I mean, look, Jaron Boots Ennis is reported that he's already told the IBF, I want dibs. Imanis Stanionis has already taken a step aside before. He believes he should get a shot at the WBA. So they probably have another 5.5, 6 month window to get this fight going.
And I think Errol needs to have maintained this throughout. That, if he's thinking that he can abscond to junior middleweight, there are no fights, no money fights at all for Errol at junior middleweight. And the only thing that's up there are bigger guys, just bigger guys with that don't have a profile, and that's about it. So it behooves Errol to come back to the table, offer this guy a better deal because the walls are closing in. You skip out on Jaron Boots Ennis, right? Skip out on Stanionis and skip out on Crawford. You go to junior middle, there's nothing but bigger, younger guys up there waiting for you.
Right. And look, last we checked, isn't Jermel the undisputed champion taking on Tim Tszyu sometime in late January?
Yes, he is.
Right. So we don't know what's going to happen. And look, the Charlos fight once a year. This is another thing that is an undeniable fact. Both Charlo brothers combined will have one fight this year. Not one fight each. one together. So tell me exactly when either Charlo's going to be available.
Exactly.
That's an assumption.
But even worse is that they won't. Derek James trains Jermel and Spence. You see what I mean? There's no money fight up there.
Yeah.
I think it's ridiculous that they can hold a belt for that long.
My point is that, look, Errol, it's clear to me, and it might sound dramatic, might sound like a hot take. His season is over. It's over. It's all over. You're not going to go to middleweight and do anything. You're not that kind of fighter. You're not going to be a multi. You're not that kind of fighter. It's over. All right. So the only legacy fight that you can have and the only money fight you can have is this fight. This is it. Now, maybe if Showtime is still around next year, when they get their annual budget, you throw some money at this thing and you get it done. Because if you don't do this for Errol, there's nothing for Errol. There's nothing.
And but it is interesting, Drew, it was on Thursday night, and I'm just kind of watching TV, and then Mike Coppinger, the intrepid reporter. I mean, Mike's been all over this story. He had this fight happening twice, then not happening, and then this happened.
Yeah.
And I remember telling you back in June, I sent you some clear evidence that the fight was not happening then. There's been a lot of agendas here. I believe they tried to leverage and corner Crawford. And one thing about Crawford, he is Sinatra. He does it his way.
Yes, sir.
For better or worse, that's exactly what he is. Okay. So I just don't get it. If Floyd Mayweather himself, who in these matters, I think he's telling the truth. He said this fight's not going to happen this year. It may happen down the line. Well, Crawford has a right to make money and stay busy and sharpen its tools. He is not fighting Avanesyan in place of an Errol Spence fight. Anyone that says that is simply lying, Jules.
Steve, but that's the point I'm making. Is it just that people are deliberately being obtuse? Because I'm like, it's obvious. Like, it was obvious they're not going to fight this year. It is not Avanesyan instead of Spence. There was no Spence fight going to happen this year.
Jules, this is the funniest thing. I mean, as I'm looking at my phone right now, it is October 23rd. When
were they going to promote this thing?
And then the other thing was, what I thought was funny was my old guy, Dan Raphael, literally said 5-6 hours earlier, the new working date is February 4th for Spence Crawford. And then literally the report came out that night. And I said, oh boy, not good. Look, at the end of the day, I wrapped up my article. I just finished it up about a couple hours ago. And what is another 4.5-5 months to possibly get this fight when we've already waited 4 years? Don't act like Crawford's backing it up. Okay, someone's been backing it up. It hasn't been the guy from Omaha.
Honestly, you know what it is? They're holding to the agendas. There are a lot of people out there, a lot of fans as well, and content creators on YouTube, and even some media, some journos that are holding to the agendas that they have propagated. They're deliberately being obtuse because the ball isn't in Crawford's court in this situation. It's not. It's not on him to do the deal and make sure the deal gets done. It really is on Heyman. You have most of the leverage in the situation and the power to do it. You have that. You have to offer this guy something respectable that he can sign on a dotted line and we have a fight. And you're not providing that. What information is being put out there? Well, how could you expect? For the biggest fight of this man's career, he accepts a deal, no money down, no guarantee. What kind of deal is that? Doesn't not do the fight.
Yeah, and when it's all, what I also found fishy is all of a sudden Errol Spence starts chirping about I can't hold the weight. I could have fought in November. You know what, Errol? As much as I like you, you could have made this fight in 2020, although it was a pandemic, but you could have made it in 2021. You could have made this fight earlier this year. You did that.
He's leaving himself an out. He's leaving himself an out.
I want to say this, Steve. I believe that the fight would have done at minimum 500,000 in 2018 because that's when the fight was hot. That's when the fight was hot. After he beat Jeff Horn and they had that confrontation, everybody saw it. Everybody was excited. Everybody was buzzing about that fight. It had the big fight feel. And after a while, it just became a running gag. a blame game, like most things in boxing now. It's like, bro, you have to understand people need to be excited. You need to create a decorum where people say, I have to see this. And now it's more like, well, if it happens, it happens. You know, that's where it's at. And I'm a hardcore boxing fan. I say it all the time. I will watch two cats fight in an alley if one jab. All right. But where I'm at, I'm getting Chocolatito versus Estrada 3, bro. I'm getting Bivol Ramirez. I have fights to watch. If this one don't happen.
Jules, you know what's interesting is when the news came out and it became like this big thing on Thursday night for about 2 hours.
Yeah.
I was like, BLK Prime. And so I asked somebody in the business who I trust, I said, what is BLK Prime? He started sending me links and some old articles, because he has fighters. He's got to find ways for guys to work. And I said, well, wait a minute, hold on. BLK, okay, so it's black-owned. I said, so is it like low-budget BET? And the guy texts me back, no, it's more like EBT BET. I said, okay.
I don't know how they're gonna get $10 million for this guy. None of my business.
I've heard it's not quite that much. I've heard it's a lesser number. It's significant.
5.
I've heard. Yeah, I think that's closer, more. Because look, it's a tune-up fight. I look, at the end of the day, you still have to have fiscal responsibility. That's December 10th. Now, what's interesting, guys, that is going to be, ironically, going up against, at least on the same night, as the top-ranked Heisman Trophy Night show at Madison Square Garden, where they throw a lot of marketing money into that. And it's going to be, I believe, Teofimo Lopez. Right, and you're going to have a lot of the top-ranked prospects on that card. So it's a tough night. That is a tough night for any independent platform. Just say, hey, guys, we're in the pay-per-view business.
Steve, is it safe to say that Crawford shot himself in the foot burning that bridge with Top Rank?
To a certain degree, yes. I mean, I was there, guys. It was so uncomfortable. So he ends up knocking out Sean Porter late. We all get to the media center at the Mandalay Bay. And I didn't really know what was going to happen. There was a lot of speculation of whether Crawford was going to stay or they're going to work fight by fight. So Bob and Terrence are seated right next to each other on the platform. And in fact, I put up a clip of it on Twitter last year. You can probably find it if you want to fish it out. And someone asked Bob or Terrence, hey, Terrence, this is your last fight with Top Rank. What's your future? Any chance of working together? And I thought Terrence gave one of the most classless, like cold answers I've ever heard, because I don't think it was a fair response. He said, well, if Bob Arum couldn't get me the fights when I'm with him, why would I stay with them? And everyone was just like, wow.
Hey,
Steve, everyone just kind of was like, oh, man.
Hey, Steve, in regards to Black Prime, they actually had like street fights featured on there.
Yeah, they have rappers and guys like that.
Yeah, they got street beefs and all that, man.
Right. Look, I don't know why Crawford decided in his own mind that the reason that he never got Spence was ineptitude on Arum's part. I like everything I've seen is that Arum tried to get and he didn't just try to get him Errol. He tried to get him Danny Garcia too. And I don't know why Crawford or how he came to the conclusion it's Top Rank's fault that you haven't gotten Errol. Well, look.
Jules, do you remember when they asked Keith Thurman, what do you think about fighting Crawford? He said, yeah, man, Arum can't be lowballing me. I need $10 million.
Yep.
Okay, so at that point, did you really need any more evidence that these guys simply were not going to fight you, that they were not allowed to? And that's going to be interesting as it relates to Spence. Let's say he takes his own fight. Here's the thing that's interesting. Thurman might be the biggest name, but he might cost more. And hasn't Errol made it clear I'm never fighting Keith Thurman?
Yes, he has.
Oh, that's interesting.
The other thing is that Thurman isn't in the queue. I mean, like we're throwing his name around, but in all likelihood, the guy in the queue is Stanionis or Ennis.
I hope so.
Because he hasn't satisfied a mandatory for the IBF in 4 years.
Yeah, I'm glad that Boots Ennis and his team have decided to raise their hand and say this is ridiculous. I mean, think about a guy like Boots. In 2022, guys, he's fought 4 minutes. Not 4 fights, not 4 rounds. He's fought 4 minutes.
Look, Stanionis kept a steady schedule of activity up until this year. He even fought 2 times the year the pandemic hit in 2020. He was busy up until this year. This whole thing with Errol and these belts, and people don't have to like it. It's the fucking truth. Because he has those belts, that's why this division sucks. He's not fighting these people. He's not fighting often enough. Medical issues or otherwise, it doesn't matter. He's the unified champion, and he's not fighting enough.
But you gotta remember too, he can only fight whoever Daddy Al tells him to fight.
That's true too.
That is true. That is true.
So that my own boss and you don't do shit. You do what Heyman tells you to do.
That is true.
That's what you do.
I don't hear Errol calling himself his own boss no more. By the way, I haven't heard him say that shit in a long time.
I don't even think he ever believed it. Look, I like Errol personally; he's a very friendly guy, but that whole situation over there is like a cult. You have to have fealty to the leader. You can't break ranks. It is unfortunate, but what has happened to the welterweight division is sad. It aged itself out in 4 or 5 years. I mean, think about this. Back in 2017, I believe that was the year that Danny Garcia fought Keith Thurman on CBS, right?
Yes,
for that
it is.
and
they got huge ratings for that fight. I think
Yeah,
it
that
was
was
like
a great
3 million. They got huge ratings for that. I remember that. Like 3 million people watched that fight.
Yeah, I mean, for boxing, it's huge. But if that was a sitcom, it would have got canceled the next week. So, I mean, we have to keep that in perspective.
That is true. That is true. That is true.
Since that point, Keith Thurman, since that point in 2017, he only has 2 wins.
Shit, he only got 4 fights. What are you talking about?
Okay, well, he only has 2 wins.
He only got 4 goddamn fights.
Right, so I don't know what's worse, that he only has 2 wins or that he's had 4 fights total.
Listen, I've been saying that Keith Thurman is a quasi-retired fighter. He's just looking for one more fight to cash out. And like, I used to have a very high opinion of Keith Thurman. I'll say circa 2016, 2017. But nah, man, like it's over for him, dog. Like, Ennis stops him. Stanionis stops him, in my opinion. Stanionis stops him. Radzav Butaev might be too much volume, too much switch hitting for him. I can't pick Keith Thurman to beat any solid welterweight today. Not one.
He has a chance to be a star against Pacquiao, and he blew it.
He can't take a body shot, bro. He
got knocked down early too, though, and he lost the first 5 rounds with the knockdown. And I said, "Wow, short of a knockout, he cannot win this fight mathematically."
And then he got hit in the body, spit them out. Then he got hit in the body, spit the mouthpiece out, and ran
in the 10th or 11th round. Yeah, and that sealed the fight for Manny because Keith had actually won a few rounds prior to that.
Hey, Jules, Leo had a question.
Leo.
I have a question for Steve Kim about this Avanesyan guy. Is this just a tune-up fight?
I would call it a solid tune-up. Stay busy. Look, Avanesyan is rated number 10 by Ring Magazine or number 8, so he's pretty solid.
Yeah,
he's rated, I think, by most of the other sanctioning bodies. He has a few solid victories. Look, has he been beat by other guys like the Mean Machine? Yes. But in terms of tune-ups, look, I've seen a lot worse mandatory defenses like Patrick Charpentier, some
like Carlos Ocampo.
Ocampo,
right?
Ocampo, yeah.
Look, I know Terrence gets a lot of heat for his resume, and I think some of it is valid. We got to add some context that he hasn't gotten those opportunities. Not like he's turning down fights, but Avanesyan is solid. I mean, look. If a young prospect like Virgil Ortiz, who everyone has in their top 5, would face Avanesyan, we'd all look forward to it. But it says a lot about Terrence Crawford and the quality fighter that he is, that we're downplaying Avanesyan if he faces him coming off a 13-month layoff. So, no, is it the greatest fight in the world? No, but is it solid and respectable given the circumstances? I would say yes.
Look, to me, it's perfectly okay because Spence wasn't happening anyway. So he could have fought a turkey sandwich in December.
Yeah.
Would have been okay. Because it's like, bro, that Spence shit wasn't going to go down. What part of that is going over people's heads? And like I said, people are deliberately being obtuse. They knew that fight wasn't happening. They heard the same news we did 2 weeks ago, and they're just pretending that they didn't so they could trash talk. That's all it is.
Well, I don't think they knew, Jules, because I think there's people that are out there that are saying the total opposite, saying, this fight is going to happen no matter what. It's going to happen November 19th. And then it doesn't happen. And everybody's like, why didn't it happen? It has to be Crawford.
Mike Coppinger, and Stefan Espinoza, they did do that. You know that, right? You saw Stefan's, right, Steve? That he's very optimistic.
Oh my God, Jules, there was actually a point during the summer, and I was speaking about this to the BDA guys. Stephen Espinoza said, "Yeah, all the details are pretty much worked out except for the money."
Yep.
And I'm thinking to myself, Stephen, the money's about 99% of it. Doesn't matter what else you got. If you ain't got the money, you ain't
don't
got
have a
nothing.
fight.
Yeah, I look. I'm just glad they didn't take the advice of Ishe Smith and move Golovkin Canelo off September 17th. Huh? That would have been pretty disastrous.
That would. Oh my God! I just can't believe that people were actually tweeting not that long. It was a matter of weeks. You remember that this fight is bigger than Canelo versus. Like, yo, dog. If it was that big,
it's so big, we can't make it.
If it was that big, we would have got the motherfucker. If it was that big, because
this fight is so big, you couldn't negotiate it. Wow, that's a whopper.
That's a whopper. Let me read the super chats. If they believed in Spence, this fight would have been happened. Crawford will crash Errol Spence's stock. Antonio Luna says, I have a question for Steve Kim. Crawford beats Spence next year. Can he mend burnt bridges with Top Rank afterwards?
Well, he's still suing them for being racist, remember? Don't forget that. I don't think that's in the cards. I think he's dug in on that position. And let's say that they fight in March or April and Crawford has a spectacular performance. Let's say hypothetically he stops Spence. Well, he's probably among the top 2 or 3 biggest names in the sport. He could, in theory, be like a free agent and just pick and choose the best fights. And it necessarily has anyone that he'd want to face anyway. And I really think with the manner in which he left Top Rank and then you add on to the lawsuit, I don't see amending offenses, to be honest with you.
I mean, in a scenario like that where he fights Spence, potentially knocks him out, the next fight for him is Virgil Ortiz, and that's a decent money fight.
Yeah, and that fight is with Golden Boy, and, I believe that fight in Dallas would do really big. I would hope that Virgil, who last fought, back in a couple months ago, against that British guy that couldn't punch. He needs another fight. These kids are not fighting enough. I thought he should have gotten a 3rd fight in last year, and they stagnated, and he ended up fighting in the spring. So, you got to keep him sharp. Because look, Virgil and Boots Ennis are literally growing out of this division.
Yes, they are.
Their time is limited, and this whole logjam has kind of held up their careers. But it'll be interesting because of the 18-month window given by the WBO, even if Virgil Ortiz wanted to petition for a mandatory position or shot right now, it would not be eligible to really be enforced until the end of May or somewhere around that time period.
The saving grace is that if by some lucky dog chance this fight happens, Crawford does have options in the division. Virgil Ortiz is one of them. I maintain that if Al Heyman is as smart as he's made out to be, he prioritizes 2 box office fights involving Terrence Crawford, one being the one with Errol Spence Jr. and another against Jermell Charlo, undisputed versus undisputed. He can do it that way because I feel like Errol is done, man. Like, Errol's done. Like, seriously, he's done. I feel like if he sets foot in the ring with Jared Ennis, there goes his O. That's where I'm at.
Keep this in mind, with the WBO bylaws, when you are a champion of distinction, you can basically petition as a champion in one division and say, hey, going up, I want to be mandatory right away. Because remember, that's how Usyk got his title shot against Joshua.
And that's how Terrence got his against Jeff Horn. That's exactly how he got it.
So there is a pathway should all of this happen. And again, we're putting the cart before the horse because, look, we still got that big Avanesyan fight to look forward to. So
that's a big fight, Steve.
Let's try to get to December 10th.
I don't know if Terrence gets past that guy. That's a tough fight.
Hey, that's the 8th rated welterweight by Ring Magazine. You just don't lace on your Everlast and beat that guy. Come on now. One fight at a time,
Don't look past this guy. He's a hell of a fighter. All right. But in all seriousness, Golden Boy has the same problem also, which is a part of the reason I think Virgil isn't as active as he should be. Golden Boy more or less has the same problem that Showtime has. I believe there's a lack of resources and a lack of funds on their end because Virgil should be more active.
They've been frustrated for a while, Jules, that they believe that they are given second-class treatment on the zone, taking a backseat behind Matchroom. And, I'll say this about Golden Boy. They don't get nearly the funds, but they put on some really good shows.
I agree with that. Most of their shows are actually very fun.
Right, and they know how to develop fighters. That group of Al Heyman fighters that we've known for so long at PBC, they were all developed under the Golden Boy Promotions umbrella in the late 2010s or right around 2008 to about 2014. Remember, Deontay Wilder, his road to the title, first 34, 5 fights.
Well, Golden Boy.
Robert
Luis
Diaz
Ortiz also. And
Danny Garcia, all of them.
With Virgil, you just got to put bodies in there with Virgil. And I think that people in Grand Prairie, Texas, they'll come. They'll show up for the fight. You just got to put bodies in there. It's not about a title with Virgil because by now anybody that follows welterweight knows how political it is. They just want to see fights.
Right, and especially as a young fighter. And I talked this, when me and Drew had dinner a couple nights ago with a couple major trainers at dinner, they will tell you, and they're powerless to do anything because they are the employees here. Fighters don't fight enough at all levels. They simply do not sharpen their blade enough. I had a long conversation with Joe Goosen about this last week. We talked about an hour on the phone. He said, Steve, back when I was developing the Ruelas brothers and Michael Nunn, we would fight 10, 11, 12 fights a year. And I could see guys getting better in the middle of fights because they were so sharp. Now a guy fights in June. You don't see him till late October, November for a fight in late December, January. And go, Steve, you almost have to start over again.
Yeah.
So the development of fighters is so much different. Buddy McGirt talks about it all the time. It took Buddy McGirt about 45 fights to get to a title shot. And nowadays, these guys at 15 fights are moved up. The game is different. And it's unfortunate because I don't think the fighters are quite as seasoned. They're not seen as often. And look at a guy like Shakur Stevenson. I think he's an excellent boxer. He should be on that pound-for-pound list for the next decade. But if he's only going to be fighting twice a year from here on out, he will never grow that much bigger than he is now.
It's the infrastructure. It's the difference between the network relationships now and the network relationships then. That whole thing that you're exclusive to a network, you're exclusive to this network, and you can only really get what they give you. Everything is different now. The way fighters are paid is different now. I mean, I'm not against Shakur Stevenson making $3 million, but in a business sense, if I just think about that business-wise, is that a sustainable thing to do, paying him $3 million for a fight that isn't worth $3 million?
Yeah, and I've been told with Shakur and his management, when they tried to broach the subject of, hey, how about taking a third and fourth fight, just kind of build this, they've always said, basically, we're not going backwards on the money. And again, let's go back to what you talked about. If you're fighting King Kong or Godzilla, I get it. Your money's up here. You're fighting Steve Kim. Your money should not be anywhere near the same. It's a damn tune-up. That's what Todd Chavez used to do. If you actually look at Julio Cesar Chavez and even James Toney, those guys would fight on HBO or pay-per-view or premium cable 1 month. A month or two later, they'd be fighting in Tijuana or, in the case of James Toney, on like an ESPN show back when they had their regular top-ranked series, or on Tuesday Night Fights.
Jose Zapata did that. He look, after the Josue Vargas knockout, beautiful knockout, what does he do? He goes south of the border. He fights on a Zanford promotion. It's not even on BoxRec. He knocks the guy out. It's like it's rare, but some fighters actually do it.
Yeah, look, these guys have to understand that if you ever want the Canelo money, which means 8 figures, you got to put in some work. Canelo will be the last big-time fighter we have, I believe, from America that'll have anything close to 70 fights. Because he started early.
Gary thought.
And he was willing to be active relatively late into his career. That's why with guys like Canelo, I don't begrudge him anything. He has earned it. Think about it. At his age, he actually did last year, not too long ago, he had 4 fights in 11 months.
Yep. I said all the time, nobody has the schedule of Canelo out. Nobody these days has that kind of schedule. M.A. Bustamante says, for Steve, haven't heard from you and Slater recently. Any word. Love that show. Shout out to Ring IQ and the panel for other great chat.
Yeah, well, thank you for asking. By the way, the show is not dead. We've run into some issues with the platform, but we are going to be back, and most likely before the end of the year. So the 3 knockdown rule, me and Mario are working out some issues on the back end. We are not like Simon and Garfunkel. We have not broken up. We are still very much a team, and we're going to be back soon. There will be some announcements on the show. I really appreciate you guys asking.
Russ Pettit says, young guys need the Prime Triple G schedule of 3 to 4 times a year. That's how he got his name out there. Fighters need to fight, not post on Twitter. And Russ, that goes back to what I was saying before, that the foreign fighters, right? Those guys like Triple G, who's from Kazakhstan. You know, you don't normally get a lot of champions out of that region of the world. It's those guys that I think, or a guy from like that, a foreign guy that's willing to get out there and work. That will be the next pay-per-view star because the American fighters are too spoiled. They get a title, they only want to fight 2 times a year, henceforth. And their purse demands are the reason. Promoter cannot afford to pay you $2 and $3 million every single time you get out there. And if you want that every time you get out there, well, you're not going to get out there but so often.
You know, a couple of weeks ago, I wrote a story about the career of Miguel Cotto. After the Canelo Golovkin fight, I went to the bar near the MGM Grand, the main one, and I had a chance to speak to Miguel. Miguel had a couple of pops in him, so he was more talkative than I've ever seen him, and I've known him for years. A couple of my friends on Twitter were there with, and I told him, I said, Miguel, I got to tell you this right to your face. He goes, what's that? I go, you had a career that'll never be replicated from here on out.
Agreed.
Because he fought a lot. He fought everybody. He was a pay-per-view star. He sold out venues. He took on tough guys, mean guys. They were exciting. It was a journey, and I looked up Miguel's record. Even after he became a champion, for several years afterwards, Jules, he fought more than twice a year.
Yeah.
I mean, he was
he was a proven draw. That's the main thing. Proven draw. Even after the beating at the hands of Margarito, he still had meaningful fights. The Canelo fight sold 900,000 pay-per-views. Who's doing that these days?
Yeah, Jules, if you look at Cotto's career, just go to BoxRec one day or just look up his record. And there are a lot of fights where I know exactly where I was. Sometimes I was ringside. Sometimes I was at my friend's house. Other times I'm watching it wherever. But his career was a journey. There was a story that unfolded. There was ups. There was lows. There was highs. There was drama. You laughed. You cried. But you remembered it. A lot of these careers now, I barely remember the careers going on right now.
Well, I defy you.
Nothing memorable about him.
Steve Kim, I defy you 10 years from now to think of the career of Keith Thurman and not laugh 10 years from now. And not laugh.
I mean, yeah, because he used to be one time, then it's none time.
No time. He's got no time to fight. Every year is a get back. He fights Mario Barrios. So, okay, I got to take the rest of the year off.
Yeah, I just look at this and it's a shame. I think some of these fighters are a little bit powerless, but some of them are complicit in what is taking place. Like even a guy like Inoue, I tell Top Rank all the time, you have the most dynamic fighter in the world. I never get to see him, and that's a shame. And
but you know, with Inoue, it's like with Inoue, I don't necessarily feel that blame can be laid at Top Rank. Top Rank is really more like a U.S. liaison to him. You know, he's back in Japan now, you know, and he's going to have another fight.
What I'm hearing is if he comes out clean against Butler, there's going to be a push to try to get him 3 fights next year, 2 in Japan, 1 in the States, because that Amazon Prime deal that they have is very lucrative. Inoue is making a lot of yen.
Yes,
the yen is flowing like the Nile out there.
And that's why I've maintained that. Look, all this Stephen Fulton shit needs to stop because unless he plans on going to Japan, that fight don't happen. You don't sell here, you know.
When's he fighting again? He had a great performance against one of my favorite fighters in Danny Roman in June.
And that's it. You know he's not fighting, Steve. You know he's not coming back till next year, bro. And it'll probably be against Reese Alim.
Oh, you mean the guy he's too good for?
Yeah, that guy.
And I'm like, who the hell do you think you are? Steven, you're a good fighter. I have a lot of respect for you. If Raees Alim is the #1 contender and you want to keep that belt, either you fight him or get the fuck out of here.
I'm going to tell you what's going to happen, Steve. He's going to move. Inoue is going to, you know, he's going to splatter Butler. We know that. and he's going to get that WBO title, and he's going to do the same thing Terrence Crawford did. He's going to move up in weight as the mandatory challenger to Stephen Fulton's WBO title. Stephen's not going to play ball. He's going to vacate. He's probably going to leave the division, maybe. Maybe he has a Brandon Figueroa rematch at Super Feather, but that fight don't happen. And I believe that the super fight for Inoue, once he gets to 122, will be MJ, because I don't think Eddie Hearn will stop MJ from going to Japan to get the bag. I don't think he didn't stop Alicia Baumgartner from going to Sky, right? No, he didn't. He let her go. He's not stopping John Ryder from fighting Zach Parker. Like, no, if you want to go and get that bag, go get it. I think he'll let MJ go to Japan for that fight.
Yeah, and the other thing is, look, I believe down the line, because I don't know if you know this, but John Rel Casimero is going to be fighting in South Korea in December.
Really?
And he could still punch. He's an exciting, quirky. I know there's a lot of issues with him. I'm not making a moral judgment on that, but
is he still with Sean Gibbons though?
No, he's not, and I think that opens up that fight down the line. Remember, they were supposed to fight during the pandemic, during NFL draft weekend, and that fight was selling really well. My buddy Jim Boone, he said, Steve, this guy can be a star. And if there's a fighter that was really affected in terms of his profile and his box office appeal, man, it was heartbreaking, because that thing really derailed Inoue's rise to stardom. I think he's behind about 2 years in terms of where he should be. But that fight is possible now.
I mean, it is, but because he's not with a major outfit, and the Sean Gibbons bridge, I can say, all right, he's not with him, must be burned. And you heard, I heard lots of funny little things, but in a nutshell, if he's not with a major outfit, how does he get in line to fight for a title?
Well, look, he's Filipino. You could still say he never lost his title at the scales, and he punches hard. That's the thing. He'll go down fighting. Remember, because he kind of had that thing where I guess he used the sauna and they decided to blackball him. So you could say, look, the guy hasn't lost. He's still technically a world champion. And there's something about matching a dangerous puncher against an absolute sniper. That guy could just throw something and land by accident. You never know.
Look, I like the fight. I like the fight. But if he doesn't have something for Inoue to win, does Inoue fight him?
Well, let's say that's the first fight at 122 to get acclimated to the weight. I think that'd be perfectly fine. If you were to say, Steve, in February, not February, May or June of next year, if Inoue was going to fight back in Las Vegas, let's say at the Mandalay Bay, where he was scheduled to fight in 2020 against Casimero, would you endorse that? I'd say absolutely. Absolutely. I'd love to be. That'd be one of the few fights. I don't really want to go to fights anymore. I'm kind of bored by this. That'd be one of the few fights I'd actually go to live.
It's a great fight. It's a great fight at 122, and also we know that Casimero was killing himself to get down to 118. Yes. That's why he was using that sauna. 122 is a better weight for him. Might be stronger, more dangerous. It's a great fight, and they don't like each other, by the way. They really don't like each other.
I honestly think Inoue would destroy him, though.
But it'd be
I want to watch it.
But it would be fun.
Yes, it would.
I want look. That's a train wreck fight. That's like Munguia versus Golovkin. I love it. Like somebody's going to the hospital. It's a great fight. It could be Golovkin. Could be Munguia.
Yeah, I'm actually hearing there's a little bit of discussion over that fight next year, Golovkin and Munguia. So we'll see about that.
I would love that.
I gotta get going here. I really appreciate your time. I'll be speaking to you guys later this week, man. Everyone have a great week coming up.
Thank you.
On that note, I am very old. Capricorn sister, take it away. Sing us a song.
Hey, wait, what? Everyone, we love you. Thank you for tuning in. Please like, and we'll see you next time.
Have a great evening, everybody. Have a great evening, Jules. Thanks for having
me. Good evening, everybody. That's all, folks.